This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to Rugby Radio, and today we're live from Philiphaugh for the Premiership game between Selkirk and Watsonians. And as well as the Premiership, today's the day the National Leagues kick in, so we'll be bringing you latest scores across the top three divisions throughout the show. And at 3 o'clock, live commentary with Purdie and Iain. And Robin's joining me now. A big day of club rugby ahead.
Yes, it is indeed. Stuart, good afternoon. Second round of games, of course, for the Premiership, but the National Leagues fire up this afternoon as well. So yeah, sure, it'll be a good afternoon rugby. Conditions here at the moment are okay, but I don't think that's predicted around the country for that much longer.
And of course, here in the Premiership, there's a lot of interesting battles, particularly after last week.
Yes, there is. Teams looking to build on victories, good victories last week, and there'll be teams not getting nervous yet. It's far too early to talk about that, but you don't want to go nil from 2, and you don't want to certainly go nil from 3, nil from 4, so the quicker that some teams can knock off that duck egg, so to speak, the better. And one of those, of course, is Selkirk here today.
Now, looking at last week, of course, we had Melrose, who got that really good win against Heriots, and that raised a few eyebrows.
Yeah, I think so, but I think a lot of people, myself included, were quietly confident about Melrose this season. I see them being one of the best of the rest. And I certainly see them challenging for the playoffs, that's for sure. So yeah, they'll head up to Glasgow today in fine fettle, but they'll come up against some stiff opposition, because the GHA are a team and a club they are used to winning at the moment, and that was a fine victory for them at Mansfield to get the season up and running last week as well. So yeah, that's going to be a ding dong up there. There'll be a big crowd. I think there's going to be a big lunch on, and it's one of the big boys of Scottish rugby, one of the big names coming to town, and it might be a wee bit hostile.
So Glasgow Hawks will be playing Currie today, GHA against Melrose, Kelso versus Hawick, Selkirk against Watsonians, and Heriots against Ayr. What's your choice game? Of course, the Heriots game is taking place at 4:45. A late kick-off there. That's on the telly.
It is. I think that there's a good round of games today. I mean, pre-season, you'd have looked at the fixture card today, and you'd have put a big circle around Heriots v Ayr, and you'd be talking about home semi-finals and in the playoffs and that kind of stuff, even this early in the season. But Heriots weren't that impressive, albeit they're missing a lot of personnel last week. They weren't that impressive at Melrose. They fairly heavy reversal, but they've got a few back today. They'll be looking to be a bit more competitive against the best team in the league by, in my opinion, at least a long chalk. So not a fancy Ayr to come away with the spoils. But yeah, this will be a good game here today as well. A hard one to pick. Watsonians, great win against their bogey team last week, and Selkirk, pretty good at home last season. Of course, they finished 5th last year, so they'll be looking to get up and running. And of course, there's a border derby first of the season over at Poynter as well, and there'll be a big crowd there. That'll be a good occasion as well.
National Leagues, of course, start today as well because of the upheaval last season. It's down to 10 teams, and I think everyone thinks that's a good idea.
12 was just too many. It was too many games as the season rumbled on too long. So yeah, there's just a bit more clarity now, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think in National 1 and National 2, as we said in the podcast, Stuart, it's so difficult to predict outcomes at this time of the season, because there's clubs come down. Of course, 3 clubs come down from the Prem into National 1, but you don't know who they've lost and who they've maintained, and who's attracted players in the other teams, and bigger are still in there, and what are they going to be like, particularly at home. And so it's really, really difficult to call. You fancy Stirling, of course. They'd be the bookies' pre-season favourites for that division, and I don't know who would be in National 2 pre-season favourites. Highland, maybe Peebles, but that's a division where anybody could come out the pack there, to be honest.
And again, of course, I mean, you mentioned Highland and Peebles, and that's really interesting because they had a really, really good side, both of them. It's a case of then when you get relegated, can you retain all your star players? And I think in the case of Peebles, certainly they have, but in the case of Highland, of course, one of their players playing here today.
Yeah, that's right, Stevie Murray. I think he's earned the right to do whatever he likes after 300 odd games for Highland. What a servant. But yeah, I think Peebles look to have maintained most of their top guys. Peebles will always potentially lose some of their best young up and coming players if they're in the third tier. We've seen the lad Furness, of course, he's had to go to Melrose because there'll be people in his camp, if you like, that if they're coaching him in the pathway, they'll say he'll need to play at a higher level. But Matty Carrier's still there, and Harrison's still there, and they've got a really good core of good players at Peebles. So yeah, I think they'll be there or thereabouts. But you look at who's in the division, GHK, complete unknown quantity. How Fife have always had a bit of pedigree about them. Kirkcaldy can beat anybody on their day. Dundee, we don't know what they'll be like. Stumel were okay last season. Falkirk, you never know, so tough to predict.
Yeah. What about today's game then? It's Selkirk against Watsonians. Very tough to call this one, I think, isn't it? Because we know that Selkirk are coming off the back of a loss at Currie, but they did get a 4-try bonus, and anyone who goes to Millennium Park and gets 4 tries, they're in reasonably good shape. And of course last year they were good at home. The previous year you couldn't buy a win at home, but of course there was the Robin factor, and you were actually here, aren't you? You're their good luck charm.
Well, so everybody keeps saying. But
Callum Anderson actually pulled me one side. He said, "Is Robin here today?" So they're obviously, taking it to heart.
Well, yeah, here I am. So we'll see what happens. But no, I agree, Stuart. I think this is really difficult to predict today as well. Selkirk have got the back line that can cause anybody problems, but Aaron McComb's not around. He heads off to Australia shortly. So Gabe Malt's come in from Bath University. He was in the Sale Sharks Academy as well, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get this exciting back line firing. Up front, Monroe Jobs back, Jack Fisher still around, but there's a massive Corey Tate shaped hole in the front row, so he's a tough man to replace. He was their player of the season for me last season. Watsonians, a lot of changes in personnel, but Watsonians are one of the clubs that have the luxury of being able to bring in what look like top class youngsters. I think there's 5 18-year-olds in the ranks today, all straight from school, and a 17-year-old as well. And looking at their warm up just now, I don't see too many of them being built like the Gable end of a fiver. They're solid looking lads. So like I say, Watsonians just have that luxury. Some of their coaches are involved as direct, heads of rugby at some of the bigger schools, etc. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing their young bucks go today. And the Watsonians should be aiming to be one of the best of the rest, and the main challengers if there's going to be any to air this season.
Well, earlier today you spoke with both team coaches. Finn Gillis, who's the forwards coach from Watsonians, he's up shortly. But first a word or two with Selkirk's man in charge here at Philiphaugh, and that is Sesh Henderson.
So Sesh, you opened up last weekend with a loss to Currie, but managed to snare a bonus point. I can see a few teams getting nothing from Millennium this season, so was that a decent start? Get that trip out of the way, or would that be a defeatist attitude?
A little bit, a bit of both actually. I mean, we've done really well the first 10-15 minutes, 8-0 up, then we unfortunately got 2 yellows, high tackles, so that kind of changed the game a little bit midway through the first half, and the second half we kind of coughed up easy possession when we should have had control, and against the team we got to score, and they did, and it damaged us. So, but however, we stuck in there deep and we got 4 tries, got a bonus point, which is better than nothing up at Melon Park.
It is, and looking back at last season's session, you finished a highly credible 5th, which surpassed most people's expectations. So now that we're down to 10 teams, what's the realistic aim for the club this season?
What I'll answer that is, look, we want to be better than last season. Okay, and that if that's performance-wise gets us to that area of the league, all the best. But we're looking to improve each week. We need to improve from last week to get anything out of this game.
And looking at the league this season, Heriots and Watsonians have both lost some experienced, proven Super Series operators. Do you see the battle for the top 4 being a bit more open this season, or is it still going to be as tough for the likes of you guys to break into?
I think if we keep clear a lot of injuries, then I think, or most teams keep clear a lot of injuries, I think, apart from one team, it's going to be an open case, and that's exciting.
It is, and Corey Tate's out again this week. How much of a blow is that, and when's he due back?
He's a big player for us, but however, he's got an injury. We hope to have him back next week, but it just wasn't quite right for this week.
And you've got a few others missing as well, the likes of Pickles, Welsh, James Bett, and of course Aaron McComb. There's some pretty big players there, but it looks like you're trusting the youth that's coming through the ranks.
100%. There's some really good boys coming through. We've got Finlay Smith is on the bench. Young Finn Marlin's shown up really well, especially in the sevens last year. He's a really strong runner, so he'll come off the bench. And look, that's where the future is for Selkirk. So you've got to back them.
And we spoke so often last season about how successful your summer recruitment had been. You've maybe not been quite as active in the transfer market this summer, but give us a bit of intel into the likes of Gabe Malt and Maurice Clemenson.
Well, Gabe Malt, he came from Bath Uni. He's a really good operator at 10, and with Aaron going away to Australia, we needed somebody in, so he came in. He's done really well. He's still, he's not played at this level before, but he's really enjoying the atmosphere here. He loves the area, and last week he done really well, and he hopes to try and push on from there. Same with Maurice. Maurice can cover a couple of positions in the back, one's 10, one's 15, and he's playing shoot shield, so the opportunity to take him and bring him over, and he's just fitted in straight away. He was at training for the first time on Thursday, and look, he's on the bench, and we'll give him game time. Let's see what he can do.
And lastly, Sesh, first home game of the season, what's it going to take to beat Watsonians today?
Keep control of the ball, keep ball, frustrate them, you know, when they've got ball, to make sure that we cut their space down straight away, because they'll run it. You know, they're a big kicking team, but they want ball in hand, and if you give them space, then they'll operate and score, and they'll really hurt you.
So Finn, you opened up last week with a bonus point win against Kelso. I'm guessing that's a pretty good start to the season after the problems they caused you last season.
It was a hell of a lot better start this season than last season. We were very happy. To be honest, it was quite strange though. Even in pre-season, we played and managed to beat Currie and Heriots, and I still had no idea how good we were. And last week against Kelso was kind of the litmus test. And you know, with the amount of young kids we had playing, they did really well. So it was a very positive start in that regard.
And last season you done tremendously well to get to the final after a fine win at Heriots in the semis. It's, you know, surprised a few people. So what's the realistic aim for the club this season?
Oh, same again. It would be minimum expectation. We appreciate that Ayr are very good, and there's maybe a gap there, but we're really ambitious. Anything out with top four would be really disappointing, and ideally we'd like a home semi-final.
And it looks like there's been a lot of change to the roster for this season, with top players like Baggett, Irvin Hess, Osley, Carl Davis and a few others all gone. Is the focus now on youth?
100% is, absolutely. I think just the way the cycle's coming now, it's like we're now on that young cycle. You know, we've got Harry Clark, just turned 18, Boyd Cooper 18, Finoni 18, handsome Harry Jackman 18. Everyone seems to be 18. Dan Kelly on the wing 18. But the good thing about these kids is they've been very well coached as youngsters. A lot of them came through Watson School or the Boroughmuir Academy or another kind of, put whatever name you want on it. They've been very well coached, so when they come into this environment, it's not the massive gap that it used to be.
And well, you've kind of almost answered my next question there, Finn. I was going, there are lads in there that are straight out of school. Are boys like that ready for this level of rugby, or is it just a case of throw them in and they'll sink or swim and it's the only way they'll get ready?
I think, yeah, you've nailed it there. Like, and that's what I mean. Last week I did not know how good we were going to be, more because I didn't know how the youngsters would react, but they did really well. And it'll be a totally different kettle of fish here, because, you know, Myerside, home, nice little comfort blanket for them.
Yep.
Coming down to Philiphaugh will be a different world.
And Andy McLean's come in from Hawks. He's obviously got a bit about him, but he's got big shoes to fill.
Oh, absolutely. A very different player to Baggett as well, though. Very, very different player. He's a good guy, Andy. He's fitted in really, really well. But yeah, it's a big hole to fill, Jason Baggett. He's been here for a long time. Very well respected member of the squad as well.
And lastly, Finn, where do you see the game being won today from a Watsonians perspective?
Oh, well, and me as the forwards coach, I would like to say we're going to kick the leather off the ball into the corners and we're going to maul them with the cowsheds and back, but unfortunately I'm not that naive. Sesh will have them very well drilled. And once again, it's a pretty experienced pack at Selkirk. If we lose today, it'll be because we didn't win that forward battle. I think it would be an easier way of putting it. But yeah, if we can get that set piece right, we should have enough firepower to hopefully.
That's Finn Gillis, the forwards coach of Watsonians. Before him, the thoughts of Selkirk boss Sesh Henderson. Well, let's have a look at another big game today in the Premiership, a local derby between Kelso and Hawick. Sam Matthews covering that one for us today.
Thanks, Stuart. That's right. It is a top-flight all-border derby, a really rare affair, but ones that we are always treated to at absolute spectacular. As the men of Poynter Park welcome in the green machine of Hawick this afternoon. The visitors lost their opening day fixture against New Boys GHA, 20 points to 29. 20 points on the scoreboard, but only 2 tries, and not getting that losing bonus point sees them sat in 7th. But they do come into this tie technically ahead of the home side Kelso in the table due to a better points difference. The home side had a tough loss up at Myerside, 36 points to 20 against Watsonians, so both teams will want to get their first win of the campaign, and both of them would love to do it against a local rival. Rain is due at half-time this afternoon, so it could be a case of get your points on the board as quickly as possible and then see out the game. Changes in the team sheets from last week. No changes in the pack for Hawick. However, due to Kyle Brunton's injury, Kirk Ford moves to 10, Charlie Welsh is out to 15, and Huggin comes in at 12. For Kelso, 2 changes in the back line. James Thompson and Utterson are both onto the bench. Hamish Tweedy and Frankie Robson both come back into the back line, and the only change in the pack for them is Ewan Knox comes in for Nick Barnes at 2. Kick-off at Poynter Park is at 3 p.m.
And earlier, Sam Matthews spoke to one of the star-studded coaches. Of course, they've got Nicky Walker, they've got Bruce McNeil, they've got Director of Rugby Neil Hinnigan, and now they've got Matt Douglas, and he spoke to Sam earlier.
Well, Matty, another set of threads, but the goal never changes. Win the game.
Yeah, exactly. I think the boys were disappointed with the performance last week, and training's been really positive this week. There's some clear go-afters against the Hawick side. They'll be looking to bounce back, so the boys are switched on, and yeah, we're expecting a physical border derby.
I was going to say, you've been in a few of them, but Border derbies is your opening home fixture. They don't get much better than that, do they?
Yeah, I've been here, on the opposite side of the fence, but Pointer's a tough place to come, and I know the boys are looking to really make this tough for Hawick today. A reaction's probably needed for Watsons last week because it was a little bit off. So it's a boisterous crowd here. I'm sure they'll be on the back of the boys, and try to make life difficult for Hawick.
And lastly on the team changes, Frankie Robson, and obviously you're the defence coach. He's quite a solid brick wall to have in the 12th channel.
Yeah, he is, and look, it's an area that we want to try and get a width in our defence this week to really go after some key big ball carriers in that Hawick side, like Spittle, Fraser Rennick, Mitchell. So Frankie leads that defence, and we've got a really a good defensive unit to try and put pressure on what is a Hawick side looking to bounce back.
Matty Douglas talking to Sam Matthews. He's going to try and get some reaction from Hawick as well ahead of their game. They're out on the warm-up park at the moment. This is Rugby Radio coming up at 3 o'clock. Full commentary from here. Selkirk against Watsonians, but also in the Premiership today. GHA take on Melrose, both victorious in their first games last week. Glasgow Hawks are at home to Currie, and at 4:45 today it's Heriots versus Ayr. That's a game that is available on Scottish Rugby's website on YouTube. 4:45 kick-off for that. As I mentioned earlier, the National League clubs start their season today. Hugh Brown is at one of the National 1 games between Edinburgh Accies and Gala.
Well, this should be a fascinating game for many reasons, not least of which is the surprise return to the home side of Jamie Soule, who announced his retirement at the end of last season following Accies' relegation from the Premiership, but is back playing today. It's also a big year for Gala, who are celebrating their 150th anniversary, and we'll hear from their Vice President Doug Taylor later in the programme. Accies, who are the second oldest rugby union club in continuous existence in the world behind Dublin University Football Club, will be keen to go straight back up to the top tier. But clubs like Gala, who finished 5th in National 1 last year, will be keen to get off to a winning start away from home. I'm really looking forward to this game, and to be honest, I'm going to sit on the fence. Well, actually, I'll be sitting in the old wooden stand, so I'm not making a prediction. Here at Rayburn Place, it's pretty grey and dark for Edinburgh Accies against Gala. Earlier, I spoke to Gala's Director of Rugby, Lewis Bertram, but first, the interim head coach here at Accies, Graham Bonner. Graham, you found yourself as interim head coach this year for Accies. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, we lost Iain Bertram kind of just before we started pre-season, and we've obviously advertised for a head coach, but thus far we've not been successful in that recruitment process. So I thought just a couple of weeks ago, just to get a bit of certainty for the players and some clarity going forward, I decided that as Director of Rugby, I just step in and do the head coach role as well. And we're still looking for a head coach, obviously, but just in the short term, I'm going to look after it. I mean, I've got a really good team underneath me in Jamie Soule, who's come out of retirement to do a bit of coaching in defence and indeed playing again. We've got Simon Bergen, ex-Scotland tight head, so he's looking after the forwards, and Charlie Shield, current pro at Edinburgh, who's looking after attack and our back play. So a good team, and we've had a pretty good pre-season actually. We've won all 3 games, so quite happy with where we are.
It was a huge blow to Accies to be relegated from the Premiership, and obviously every team wants to bounce straight back, but that's not going to be easy, is it?
Absolutely not. No, there's some really good sides in National 1, so that is the goal, of course, but it's going to be a tough season to get right back up there, but that's what we're talking about, and that's what the aim is.
You seem to have maintained quite a lot of the team, and we've mentioned Jamie Soule. It's great that he's back playing and coaching. That must be a big boost for you. And you've also you've got Jamie Looms as skipper, who provides a bit of stability. Yeah,
I mean, we've really only lost a couple of players from last season, but we've also gained a couple. So all in all, we look as good a side as we probably did last year, to be honest, if not better. We've got an Aussie guy in from Brisbane who got a lot of experience, can play wing, centre, fullback. Got Luka Musa from Edinburgh Uni, who's a current Romanian Sevens internationalist. So we've brought in a couple of quality players. And
are you optimistic then that you can go back up at the end of this season?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I am an optimist anyway, but I do believe we've got a squad that's got a lot of quality. And if we can keep guys fit, which was one of the issues we had last year, to be honest, I think we used nearly 60 players, if not 60 players in the first team. If we can keep guys fit, then I think we've got a real chance of being certainly up there and pushing for promotion again.
And today's match against Gala, there'll be no pushovers?
No, absolutely not. And I've said to the guys, this will be a tough ask, and it's a lot of nerves about it as well. I guess first league game, and I've said, look, there's no pressure. Let's just go and play our game and enjoy it, because that's what we're here for at the end of the day.
Graham, all the best today and for the season. Thanks for talking.
Thank you very much.
Lewis, new season. First off, it's Edinburgh Accies. How are Gala feeling about this season?
Obviously we're excited. It's our 150th anniversary season. There's a lot to be excited about around the club. Playing Edinburgh Accies is a tough start. We've got a really tough start to the league. We've got the three teams that came down and Stirling thrown in there in the first. So we're embracing that challenge though. We've got to go and have a go at these teams. This is probably when we want to catch them. It's early in the season before they've hit their straps properly. We've had a really good pre-season. Boys have bought in and worked hard. We're worked to try and implement a few new things in our structure and what we do. So we're excited and we're looking forward to what today brings.
Fifth last year must have been quite disappointing for a club like Gala, though. You'll want to do much better this year and be in the mix for promotion.
To be honest, fifth was disappointing in the fact that we'd been fourth for the majority of the season, and we tailed off towards the end of the season. Where when it was a 10-team league with 3 down, we felt like there was a gap. There was the top 3, and then everyone else, there wasn't much in it in that league, and we were disappointed to lose out on that 4th spot. To be honest, where we're at this season, my aim is that we are challenging these teams that have come down for the Premiership, and we're challenging Stirling, so we're in amongst and we're living with them. Hand on heart, I don't think we're going to get promoted. I'm going to be realistic about that. I think that's probably not where we're at as a club at the moment. We want to be challenging at the top end of this league, and that's where we don't want to be involved in a dogfight at all. Like we were at times last year. That's where we're at playing wise for this season for us.
What about the team then? Have you had many changes? I know you brought in a young American chap called Kai Jones.
Yeah, so Kai's come in from California. He's English actually. He originates from Bath, and he's got family over here, so he was coming over anyway. And so he's linking up with the squad. He's come in. He's done really well in pre-season. So he'll make his first league start today. He's come in. We have. To be honest, our squad's fairly settled from last season. We don't have too many new additions. We've got Hamish Segi, who is 17 and is coming up for the Wanderers. He's a good talent in our back 3 today. He's playing there. We've had Grant Stevenson has come from Livingston. He adds a bit of depth and bulk to the front row. He can play across the front row, which is really handy. But other than that, we are fairly as was last season, and there's positives about that in the fact that we've got guys that know what we're doing, know what we're about, but also guys that know what the club's about and really want to work for the badge and the jerseys.
The Director of Rugby, Lewis Bertram at Gala, and before that the interim head coach Graham Bonner from Edinburgh Academical. It's going to be an interesting one that today. Well, let's have a quick rundown of the matches in the Premiership and the Nationals 1 and 2 this afternoon. Starting with the Premiership, GHA v Melrose, Glasgow Hawks against Currie, Kelso v Hawick, Selkirk against Watsonians, and that 4:45 kick-off later on, Heriots versus Ayr. In National 1 today, an interesting selection. Edinburgh Accies against Gala, we've just heard about. Gordonians, newly promoted from Division 2, they have a home tie against Glasgow Accies. Jed Forest against Mar. Now there's always a ding-dong between those two clubs at Riverside Park. Musselburgh play bigger, and also Stirling County, favourites for the title, will take on Boroughmuir. In National 2, it's Berwick against Falkirk, Dundee versus Kirkcaldy, Highland against Howard Fife, Newton Stewart against Stewart's Melville, and Peebles versus GHK. Well, we're on air till 5 o'clock this afternoon, and this season we're bringing you another programme at 7 o'clock. Rugby Roundup will bring you chat from players and coaches, full results and tables from the day's games. So make a date, 7 o'clock every Saturday during the season as we cover the top 3 divisions in Scottish Club Rugby. And also a word about our weekly Scottish Club Rugby podcast, which you can hear every Friday with Robin Purdie and myself previewing the weekend's games. All programmes available at our website at rugbyradio.co.uk. Well, after the break, it's live commentary of Selkirk versus Watsonians from Philiphaugh.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whisky making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Yes, welcome if you just joined us here on Rugby Radio, and it's time for commentary of the Premiership game between Selkirk and Watsonians, and let's join our commentary team, Iain Hurd and Robin Purdie.
Thank you, Stuart, and welcome to Philiphaugh, folks, where Selkirk will look and get their first win of the campaign after a battling bonus point at Currie and lay the foundations of a home fortress. While a new look Watsonians will be here to build on last weekend's fine win against their bogey team Kelso. Looking at the teams, both are missing a few front-liners with the likes of Corey Tate and Ben Pickles out for Selkirk, and Martin McGinley and Ronan Kerr on the sidelines for the Myerside outfit. And it's a new look men at 10 for both this season, with McComb heading to Australia and Baggett leaving for London. So for Selkirk, Callum Anderson's at 15, Blake Cullen and Lachlan Ferguson are on the wings, Ross Nixon and Andrew Grant Sutty are in the centres, with Gabe Malt and Hugh Alderson at 9 and 10. Luke Petty, Fraser Easton and Bruce Riddle form the front row. Captain Andrew McComb and Jack Fisher are in the middle row, with a back row made up of Monroe Job, Taylor Wilson, Kieran Westlake. Watsonians have Dom Coates at fullback, Xander Walls and Dan Kelly are out wide. Loman McPherson moves into the centres to partner Harry Clark. Andy McLean's at 10 with Adam McKenzie at half-back. The front row, it's Craig Davidson, Matt Pritchard and Cole Lamberton. Andrew McInnes and young Finn Ronnie are in the second row, with the loose forwards being skipper Quaggavan Neekirk, Stu Allison and Harry Jackaman. Today's refs, Kieran Stark with Ewan Maguire and Bob Nevins running touch. Speaking of officials, alongside me today is everyone's favourite ref from back in the day, part of the coaching team Jed last season, Mr. Iain Hurd. So Iain, how do you see this one going today? Who's your money on?
It's a difficult one, Robin. I mean, I think Watsonians showed last week that they've got the ability to step up again this season with as many young players that have come in despite the disruption of losing so many. Selkirk at home, different kettle of fish entirely. For me, I think if Selkirk keep a hold of enough ball, their backs are really useful. I think they might just sneak it by a couple of points in the end.
Well, the teams are entering the field now. Watsonians are out first in their familiar white and maroon attire. They're going to attack the cricket club end here at Philiphaugh in the first half by the looks of things, as we await the home team. Selkirk lost at Currie last week, but gained what could be, even at this time of the year, valuable bonus point looking forward. I don't see that many teams going to Curry, or there's a chance not that many teams will go to Curry this season come away with much, so it probably represents a not bad start to the season for Selkirk, a bonus point there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is the big thing in this league, especially when it's a cutthroat. I think we all accept that Ayr are probably a cut above, or certainly half a cut above everybody else. The big thing is win as many games at home as you possibly can, and if you are when you are on the road, if you can pick up a losing bonus point, staying within 7, or you can pick up the 4 try bonus point, these are the things that are going to make the big difference come the end of the season, because I don't really see there being that much difference between the other 9 teams in the league.
Yeah, I agree. Now that we're down to 10-team leagues as well, I thought at the start of the season that the top 4 might be quite cut and dried again, but it's just since the season started, it's maybe not quite as clear cut, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at last week's results is quite interesting. Kelso still be a reasonably strong side. They struggled a bit up at Watsonians. Heriots have come down after being second in the league last year, although they didn't make the playoff final, and they've been well beaten by Melrose, a side who I think will do quite well this year. I think they've got a set of backs that can live with pretty much everybody in the league. I'm not so sure about their forwards, whether they'll be able to cope with the biggest sides, but that's quite interesting. And as I say, you've always got, Hawick are always difficult to beat at Hawick despite last week's result. GHA, they've, as you said earlier on, they're on a winning streak. They're used to winning, and that does make a big difference. Looking forward to today's game. I mean, when you look at last season, there was 153 points over the 2 games, so you'd like to think that we're going to get some good open rugby. Still dry at the moment, as we're just about to kick off.
We are indeed. Selkirk have joined us finally, and we're underway through Andy McLean, recent recruit for Watsonians from Glasgow Hawks. So it's Watsonians with the first possession, and it is that man McLean, and there's a little half break on for Loman McPherson. He's in the 13 jersey today, often found on the wing. Many tries, I think 15 to his name this season, so decent start for Watsonians. A little half break for McPherson there. McLean into the midfield comes the fullback, that's Dom Coates. Another little half break there, takes him up towards the 22. It's a tip on from Matt Pritchard, the hooker, and over the 22 they go. Still in possession here, tidy start by Watsonians, a little wrap around there, and there's a good defence eventually by Selkirk. One of the tacklers was Andrew Grant Sutty, and they've managed to get them into touch on that far side. But I think, Iain, Watsonians will be fairly pleased with that start. Yeah, they've shown a lot of intent very early in the game. They've tried to get that ball wide. I think we expected them to do that. I think Davy Wilson said last week, the coach, that the kicker, the standoff that they have this year, McLean's not the greatest of kickers. He's a great runner of the ball, and I think they'll do that an awful lot. So, Selkirk's defence have held out well there. There's a couple of last-ditch tackles, but they now just need to get this exit and get themselves up to their end of the pitch. And it's going to be thrown in by Fraser Eason. And of course, Corey Tate not in the Selkirk lineup today. They'll hope to have him back in the not too distant. But that's a nice, tidy, positive start for the young hooker. It was the flanker Taylor Wilson who'd come to the front of the line out, and that's the first punt of the afternoon. Clearance to touch by impressive young scrum half Hugo Alderson, who really made a name for himself last season in the Selkirk jersey. He's cleared his lines to just outside the 22, so the first Watsonians line out of this afternoon, that'll be thrown in by Matt Pritchard. Played all 23 in one capacity or another. Matt Pritchard, Super Series experience with this Watsonians outfit as well. So right on the 22, Pritchard goes towards the tail. That's taken at the back by Finn Ronnie. Another little half break here, and that's passed on there to Harry Jackman, last week's man of the match against Kelso. And a decent shot in there though, another carry by Ronnie. Now it's Craig Davidson, the big prop, who trundles up. They're only 5 metre short here, Watsonians, and that was Bruce Riddle, who came over and played the 9. And there's going to be a penalty as the wind picks up and our papers are blown off the desk here. Need to find a paperweight from somewhere, Iain, but I think that was going to be a penalty all day long. They've taken it quickly. Actually, I beg your pardon, Iain. They were bang in front. We thought we were going to go for 3 points, Watsonians, but they're up towards the line. Are they over? Yes, they are. First blood to Watsonians here this afternoon. And it looks like the young number 8? Is it Quaggavan Niekirk? We'll see in just a second when he turns round with the number on the back, but it was a meaty, powerful carry in between the posts as well. So 5 points will undoubtedly become 7 here, and Iain, that's just about as good a start as they could have hoped for.
Yeah, there's some really good rugby there. It's just fairly simple stuff. It's just been a couple of one-outs, and then 2 or 3 runners that are coming from inside and outside, and then they've popped it off. Then they've made that little bit of break. Looks like it was Van Niekerk who scored, the skipper, and it was just power. It was a Stonewall penalty. Bruce Riddle, potentially, you look at that, I know it's early in the game, but you look at that and say, well, it was cynical, but they've got the 7 points out of it. That's a really good start for Watsonians. Selkirk just need to get a little bit of ball now and hold on to it for 5 or 10 minutes and get themselves down at the Watsonians half.
So Selkirk nil, Watsonians 7, around 4 minutes gone here at Philiphaugh, and that's a deep kick-off by Callum Anderson. It's been allowed to bounce. Now Watsonians have played at that in the dead ball area. Wasn't the cleanest as the player flopped on it, but it's gone dead. So
yeah, I think that should be a 22 dropout. It's not a kick from open play, so that should be a 22 metre dropout. He's quite right, it's not a scrum back, but it should be a 22 metre dropout.
Well, it's a dropout, but it's from the try line. It's been taken in by Lachlan Ferguson, his first carry of the afternoon. He's lost a metre or two there. It was a double tackle, in fairness. First carry now for the skipper, Macomb. Only one Macomb in the Selkirk ranks today. Callum Anderson, his first touch of the afternoon to Andrew Grant-Sutty. The decent carry by Grant-Sutty's hauled to deck. Just shy of the Watsonians 22 as Selkirk try to claw their way back into this one. Petty, still going strong. Luke Petty, Alderson again. This time to Westlake, he tips it on to Malt. Nixon, another player with over 300 games. Westlake again, takes it into the contact. Fisher's there for company. Taylor Wilson goes in as well, sets it up. Westlake, that goes to Bruce Riddle, gave away the penalty that led to the try. Alderson to Malt, a little dummy there, and that's a Carrie Monroe job. He manages to get it away to Lachlan Ferguson, who'd come in looking for work. So Selkirk again through Andrew Grant-Sutty, head down. Route 1 runs headlong into Van Niekerk, the Watsonians try scorer. Petty again to Malt, and coming at pace was Taylor Wilson. It's been knocked on by Wilson, not, and that Selkirk huff and puff comes to nothing. And I think as pleased as they were with their attacking prowess early in the game, Iain, Watsonians will be pretty pleased with the D there as well.
Absolutely. Some really good defence there. They kept a really good shape. The only time that Selkirk made any sort of inroads was there was a little delayed pass there from Callum Anderson to Grant-Sutty. There was also another delayed pass and a pass out the back, and that's what they're going to have to do to break the Watsonians defence, because organisational wise they are very good. They're just coming up as one, and they're certainly not missing tackles, and they're winning the battle at the moment for the collision.
Yeah, would I be right in saying, Iain, they maybe look just a wee bit more meaty, this Watsonians outfit, compared to Selkirk? Yeah,
I think the word we used earlier on was athletic, I think.
Yeah, they've got some big lads. We spoke often enough in the first couple of weeks about the fact that they've lost a few of the Baggots there, Van Hesse's, Cal Davis, etc., but they've replaced those with young tyros, good players out the school system. That is the luxury that the likes of Watsonians have, and we spoke about it off-air, Iain. Watsonians, and I mentioned it pre-match as well, there were 5 18-year-olds and a 17-year-old in the ranks today.
Yeah, and to be honest, from this distance, stand in the stand, you probably couldn't pick them out. You can certainly pick out the younger lads in the Selkirk team, as you can do with a lot of the border teams. You can't pick them out because they're so physically more mature than probably most of the young border players.
That's right. If a Borders team in the Premiership was loaded today with 6 that were straight out the Wanderers or the Youth Club or whatever, you'd be worried what the scoreline was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think you said beforehand, and I think Finn Gillis said in his pre-match interview, was that a lot of these lads have come through the Watson School, the Boroughmuir School of Rugby, Merchiston, all these schools. They have great programmes. You see it year in, year out. They've got programmes that mean that these guys are training not as professional athletes, but they're certainly training as much more professional than the likes of the local teams down here who are not getting the same opportunity at schools.
So the scrum been reset a couple of times, and we wait for it to be fed. Watsonian scrum be fed by Adam McKenzie, who's come in from Edinburgh Accies this season after their relegation, and that's gone straight to the inside centre, Harry Clark, who sent it down the park to Callum Anderson. Now we all know about his big left boot, but is that going to go out on the full? Yes. Error there by Callum Anderson. It was a very tight angle to work with, but they're going to go back for a Watsonians line out, 5 to 10 metres outside Selkirk 22. He was bang on the money with the first darts of the afternoon, Matt Pritchard. And you'll be looking for the likes of Van Niekerk, the likes of Finn Ronnie and McInnes in the middle of that line out. And it's gone over the top, actually not the intended target, and it's squint. It was taken at the back by Cole Lamberton. But the squint throw will give Selkirk a little bit of respite. And they'll have a scrum just outside their own 22, 15 metres in from the stand here at Philiphaugh. What does Selkirk need to do? It's early days, of course, but what do they need to do to establish a proper foothold in this game?
I think they've just got to keep hold of the ball. They've just got to truck up. They've got to use the big ball carriers like Fisher, Monroe Job and Westlake in the back row, Bruce Riddle and Luke Petty. Just got to use these guys, just be patient. They're not going to score lots and lots of tries, I don't think, today from flinging the ball about. They're just going to keep things solid and then try and get a Watsonians player to jump out the line and use the really good backs in Grant Sutty and Ross Nixon.
Solid scrum. And speaking of Nixon, here he goes. Runs into the centre combination there of Harry Clark and Lomac McPherson. It's back for another bite of the cherry for Callum Anderson. That's a big punt by Anderson, and it's bounced. And it's going to run over the try line. It's not going to go dead. So Dan Kelly, 17-year-old Dan Kelly, finds his fullback Coetzer. And has been charged down by Westlake. That was good play. It was Monroe Job, I beg your pardon. And that's been deemed to be knocked on. I think it was in the act of picking it up. But territorial advantage there, territorial gain for Selkirk. Good hefty punt there by Callum Anderson.
Yeah, and maybe that's just sort of looked at a potential Achilles heel of that Watsonians back three. If we've got two 17-year-olds in there, they might do that at school level, but they're not going to get away with that as much in the Premiership in Scotland. So that might be something that Selkirk can do, is punt it long, put a bit of pressure on them, and say, right, okay, if you want to run it out, let's go. But you'll not get away with it as easy in this type of rugby.
Yeah, it was good hassling and harrying by Monroe Job. Brilliant to see him back out there for Selkirk. Missed all of last season with a horrendous injury. The ex-Scotland under-20s man, recipient of the 2023 McPhail Scholarship to Stellenbosch as well. He's been working hard in the gym. Job, and he's bulked up a bit as well. I feel he's going to be a key man for Selkirk here this season, and that's going to need to be another reset scrum. Luke Petty is now over for a chat with his near side assistant referee. Petty v Cole Lamberton, to the more experienced props in the league, as we await this reset. 13 minutes gone here. Selkirk 0, Watsonians 7. Early try for the skipper, Van Niekerk. He's already hit his tally from last season, 1 try from 23. Huge amount of Super Rugby experience for the big South African as well. So Scrum's taking their time to reset once again. Adam McKenzie, new scrum half, scored v Kelso last week, and that's a strong scrum for Watsonians, and the penalty's been awarded as the forwards congratulate each other. The back slaps, the chat. Ominous for Selkirk, Iain? Pictures being painted to the ref?
Yeah, and certainly there was issues on this loose head side with Luke Petty and Lamberton, so they'll keep an eye on that. It'll be interesting to see. It's a fairly young, inexperienced assistant referee on this side, so it'll be interesting to see how he copes with trying to find out what's going on there. That's what the referee's for. He's there to help him. We'll see what happens.
Bruce Riddle, the hugely experienced Riddle, was trying to explain to the referee what had gone wrong there, and that's a loose line out again by Watsonians. It didn't look that straight as well. Selkirk have managed to make a mess of it, and they're going to have to come from their own 22 here. It looked slightly high on McLean. It's been knocked forward in there somewhere along the line by Selkirk, so it's going to be another scrum 10 metres in from the stand side here. They've done okay the last 2-3 minutes actually, Selkirk, to disrupt Watsonians and get down to where they need to be in and around the Watsonians 22. Yeah,
just what we said earlier on is they've kept possession, they've done the hard work, and then that one big punt from Callum Anderson, and again, I think it looks like it the wind's probably blowing more straight across the pitch from the roadside straight into the stand. But he being a left-footed kicker, he got that punt absolutely spot on and got into the corner. So they've got to make sure they don't give a penalty away at this scrum. Keep the pressure on to Watsonians, or at least if they're kicking out, and Selkirk have got a line out in the Watsonians half.
So front rows come together. Watsonians powered through the last scrum, but that's stronger from Selkirk. It's gone round, but it's picked up by this big young 18-year-old Harry Jackman, as I said, man of the match last week, and that's a loose pass, but it's been taken by Walls on the bootstraps, and the Burley winger's running, and he's kicked it through. He's kicked it infield here, and Selkirk are trying to get back. Callum Anderson, has that gone over the line first? It's dotted down by Callum Anderson. There's a good covering by the Selkirk fullback, and he's up to take the drop out quickly. And that's going to go to Loman McPherson, and McPherson goes to McLean. McLean up towards the Selkirk forwards, just outside the 22 centre field. So Watsonians now with a bit of territory in the Selkirk real estate. That was Andrew McInnes with a carry. Now it's Harry Clark, another of the 18-year-olds. Good tackle on Loman McPherson by skipper Andrew McComb. But they're still trundling forward, Watsonians here through the big forwards, and here's another one coming. Cole Lamberton. Mackenzie comes back on the short side. The vice-captain Stu Allison, decent sevens player Allison as well. Now it's Matt Pritchard. Pritchard's tackled by Petty, among others. McLean. Van Niekerk pumps the legs, the try scorer, taking it ground 10 metres or so from the Selkirk. It's been pinched by Selkirk. That's good work in there. I think that was Taylor Wilson. Strong work there by the flanker. Just waiting for the scrum half now to come across Alderson. He goes to Mauld. He hits it up rather than kicks it. So Alderson, it looks, they formed a bit of a caterpillar at the back of that, and Alderson goes towards touch, finds touch, and they've done pretty well to come out of that, Selkirk.
Yeah, great work there by Taylor Wilson. Watsonians, they got the go forward, but unfortunately the two clearing players went straight past the ball, as there was nobody there from Selkirk, so there was nobody to make contact with. Taylor Wilson just popped in behind him, got his hands on the ball, and after a bit of time managed to wrestle it free and turn it over. Good clearing kick by Alderson, so did really well, especially off that break by Walls.
Yeah, he's got a good boot on him, Alderson. Just bring you a couple of updates from around the grounds. Of course, it's Selkirk 0, Watsonians 7 here. GHA currently lead Melrose by 3 points to 0. Glasgow Hawks 7, Curry 0 as it stands. Back underway here. Watsonians won the line out, and that's a strong carry again, winning the collisions at the moment. The man from the capital, McInnes, hits it up. High tackle on him. Referee's arm is out, so they're playing with a free ball here. Coates comes out to Dan Kelly on this near side, and he's off Kelly. Strong work by the 17-year-old. Pinched in the midfield, or has been pinched as he threw it back inside by Andrew Grant Sutty. They're going to go back for the penalty, but the 17-year-old Iain, Dan Kelly, scored last week against Kelso straight out at George Watson's College, and he showed what he's about there.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's come in as a sort of late replacement today as well, and really impressive. He stood him up, going around the outside, and bar the fingertips of the Selkirk player, he was in scoring. So coming back to the penalty, sort of middle of the field for the high tackle with Munro job, it was just one above the sternum, and it's Coetzer who kicks the touch from the middle of the pitch to the roadside to give Watsonians the attacking line out.
Yeah, going for the points, very much out of fashion these days, Iain.
Seems to be, yeah. Game this morning in the New Zealand where they were right in front of the post, gave them a chance to go and draw the game. Went for the kick to touch, and they actually scored and won the game. So, yep, seems to be the case nowadays.
He too dares, and Watsonians have won the line out here, and they're going to try and rumble it forward now, and it's building up a wee bit of a head of steam. Selkirk got something to think about here as the Watsonians forwards get up towards the 5 metre line, and that's off to Loman McPherson. They don't want to give him too much room in at 13 today. McPherson, another penalty coming. Kieran Westlake flew into that. Referee Kieran Stark not thinking out the pocket yet, but it's going to be a Watsonians penalty even closer at the post now. Absolutely bang in front and 7 metres out, so we'll see what they do on this occasion, and they've opted for a scrum. So varying it up a bit, Watsonians, just to bring you a couple of Results from National 1 as we await this scrum to be set. It's Edinburgh 7, Gala 0, Jed 0, Marsh 7 and Musselburgh 10, Bigger 0. So Iain, veering it up, like I say, last kickable penalty went to touch. This kickable penalty right in front of the post to take a scrum.
Yeah, they've certainly got the confidence to go for the 7 pointers. I think they've got a bit of dominance up front, so they're going to try and go with a scrum. The issue here I've got is what happens if they get a penalty off the scrum? Do they go scrum again? You know, I'm not a great lover of that, but I think the other thing that Selkirk are doing is going to be too many silly penalties. It's like defend. They've actually defended really well, and they've had their lines back in place.
So Mackenzie, finally, front rows come together. Mackenzie feeds it. Solid enough scrum at the moment from Selkirk, and they go down the blind side. McLean, it's opened up for McLean, and Coates, as he's done in the past, Dom Coates strolls in, dives in without a hand laid on him for the second Watsonians try of the afternoon. That was slick, you know, first phase. Yeah, very much so. They obviously knew what was going on. Selkirk didn't react as quickly as they possibly could have done, and just a really nice planned move. And you know, the winger held his width, which meant that the Selkirk winger couldn't then pull across and try and defend inside him, and it just left the gap for Coetzer, and he's not going to turn that down. And through he went, untouched, and it's going to leave McLean with a conversion. Slightly more difficult this time, but that's going to put them in a handy lead. Yeah, a bit of breathing space for Watsonians. 21 minutes gone. Selkirk 0. Watsonians 12 as we await McLean's conversion, and that's what McLean brings you. You know, he was quick there, he was direct, slick pass. You know, Baggett, a fine player Baggett was, but McLean's no mug. Absolutely. I mean, for me just now, you just looked at that and standing here watching it, you really didn't know what was going to happen. Initial thought was they would try and scrummage it and get another penalty, but what they've done is they've obviously had something planned, and it's happened at the very last second, which makes it so difficult for Selkirk to defend. It was indeed difficult to defend, and defend it they could not. So Selkirk, a couple of tries down now. Watsonians 12 points to the good. Callum Anderson's tactically went low and hard with that restart, and it's not been returned to touch by Watsonians, so Alderson will have an attempt here at sending it towards the sky, but that's came off the inside of the boot. That's a duck hook here, and that's going to give Watsonians cheap possession back by way of a line out as that flies out on the full. Yeah, it's simple unforced errors. You know, it was probably the right idea to put it up in the air, but you know, it was a nothing kick. It was, you know, he didn't really hit as hard as he should have done. Just bang it up as high in the middle of the pitch and go for it. You've got your defenders outside. And at the tail of that line out, it's taken cleanly off the top. So McLean again to Coetzer. Strong defence in there though by Selkirk in the midfield. Nixon, as you'd expect. Seen that often enough over the years. But Mackenzie again. This time he goes to the hooker, Pritchard, who trundles it. Mackenzie, Lamberton. Lamberton's met there by Andrew McComb, and it's been chipped forward and taken back in again, and slick play by Watsonians, and it's opened up here for the youngster. Is he going to be in the corner? Good tackle by Callum Anderson, and it's been salvaged there. Lachlan Ferguson. It was Dan Kelly up this near side once again. Last ditch tackle in the corner by Callum Anderson, and Iain, you have to say they look impressive, these youngsters. They certainly do. They're just picking the right option every time, and they're also executing well. So it's all very well to pick the idea going down the blind side there when there's a 3-on-2, but to actually execute it and pass the ball at the right time. Great skills, but again, well coached, as Finn Gillis said before the game, and they have just done the basics really well so far. So line out 5 metres out for Watsonians. They've got a hand to it, Selkirk, and it's been palmed back though. Back over the try line, and it was mopped up there by Lachlan Ferguson coming round to tidy things up. So they'll look for Malt to send it here, clear his lines, and that's a decent clearance by the new standoff from deep inside his own dead ball area. He's hoofed it to just outside the 22. Hoyk, I've got first blood in the Border Derby. Andrew Mitchell, who else has scored for Hoyk? Kirkford with a conversion. It's currently Kelso 0, Hoyk 7, and Gala have got one back. Ben Gill try has been converted by Rory Wilson. Edinburgh 7, Gala 7. Jed got one back as well, I'm told, so 7 points apiece at Riverside as well against Mar. Latest Watsonians line-out's been taken. Petty trying to swim his way around there as Watsonians try to drive it, and it's opened up for Stuart Allison round the side. Gap opened up, he's been dragged to deck eventually by Lachlan Ferguson, but Watsonians knocking on the door once again, and it's another carry by Matt Pritchard, the hooker, who's been busy so far in the first 25 minutes or so, and it's been grubbered through once again, and Coetser's interested in this. But Callum Anderson gets back in the battle of the fullbacks, but Iain, they're knocking on the door, they're varying it up.
They are, yeah. They've got both power up front with the likes of Van Niekerk, Lamberton, the hooker, Pritchard, Davidson. All these guys are taking the ball and they're taking it up hard, and then as soon as it comes out to McLean, he's either got the two young centres outside that are desperate to run, or he's got that little grubber.
Yeah, there was the grubber that he employed on that occasion. Him and Coates are on the same wavelength as Selkirk drop out from under their own sticks. It's been allowed to bounce by Allison, but it's been taken in there once again by Dan Kelly. Very impressive so far. Brimming with confidence. Craig Davidson, the prop, he's a bit more direct, but no less effective on that occasion. And again, it's the slick service of Mackenzie. Cole Lamberton. And there's a mess on there as well. And it's out to Van Niekerk, who's lurking out wide. Take 2 or 3 Selkirk players to drag him down. Monroe Jobs on the wrong side, but the referee's happy enough. And here they come again. Again, it's through Davidson. Hits it up. Mackenzie to McLean, and McLean once again tries to grubber it, but it cannons off a Selkirk player on. That's a nice scoop off the deck there by the young inside centre Harry Clark, another who's going well so far this afternoon. And they're still in possession, Watsonians, albeit they've retreated 10 metres or so. So route 1 goes Andrew McInnes, and once again Mackenzie at the base. Dropped into the pocket as Harry Clark, and Harry Clark gets it, and he tries the banana kick off the outside of the right boot. Is Malt going to be under that? Yeah, he takes it well. Malt, who dropped back into full position, he's got all the time in the world to try and send this halfway to Gala, and again that's a decent punt, takes them up towards halfway. But all the rugby being played in the Selkirk territory at the moment.
It certainly is. I think just watching it, watching the outskirts of the game at the moment, I think it could have been 2 or 3 more tries potentially. For Ross Nixon, he's reading the play really well. I wouldn't say he's debatable offside. I think he is actually onside, but he's just rushing up every single time and doing a really good job of cutting off that ball. Once Watsonians start to realise that he's what he's doing, they're going to step inside him and put the pass out wide, and there's going to be all sorts of problems for Selkirk, I think.
Just a break in play here. Watsonians player being treated by the medic, so I can tell you that it's GHA 6, Melrose 0 at the moment. 28 minutes gone here at Philiphaugh. Selkirk 0, Watsonians 12. Watsonians very impressive so far. The big names have gone, or some of the big names have gone, and the youngsters have replaced them. The likes of Neil Irvin Hess being replaced by Harry Jackman. Man of the match last week. Lee Kelso came in through the hugely esteemed Boroughmuir system. Scored Lee Kelso last week in that man of the match performance, but we're back underway here. 28 minutes gone. Watsonians line out right on halfway. Taken at the back by McInnes. So they'll have another chance to launch something here. Mackenzie goes to Van Niekerk, and Van Niekerk runs hard and runs straight, and a couple of defenders haul him to the deck, but not after he's made a couple of metres or so, and shapes the kick here, the scrum half. This is going into the box, and that's a decent box kick as well. That's coming down with snow on it, and it's been allowed to bounce. It's caused all kinds of confusion, but a penalty's been awarded to Selkirk for blocking, and Callum Anderson's seen a bit of space and gone quickly. Anderson, and that's a beautiful piece of running. He's looked the most lively so far for Selkirk. Nixon goes out to Andrew Grant Sutty, and again that's a decent run by Grant Sutty, and they're over the 10 metre line here. Selkirk first foray into Watsonians territory for a good 10 minutes or so. Bruce Riddle's bundled back over the ruck as he tried to dodge his way through. Malt goes into play scrum half to Petty. Petty, that's a big collision round the side of the ruck as he took it up. Once again Andrew Grant Sutty, this time he's tackled well. Stu Allison in there for the away team. Malt tries to dummy and go. Drag to the deck. Alderson to Taylor Wilson. Crowd screaming for Selkirk to go wide, but it does appear they have numbers. So Alderson again to Nixon, to Andrew Grant Sutty. 3 carries in quick succession for him, and this time he's met with a maroon and white wall. Now it's Kieran Westlake. I always think Westlake's got good distribution for a forward, but again he trucks it up. And that's Monroe job, he does the same. So Alderson's going to have to come round once again. Malt. And that's a flat pass to nobody in particular by Nixon, but it's been taken in by Lachlan Ferguson. And there's a Watsonians player in. That's a good clear out, good strong work, and the referee is in the way of Hugo Alderson's attempted kick down the field, so they'll come back for a scrum, but a wee bit more inventive from Selkirk. Iain?
Yeah, a couple of opportunities there, Robin. There was certainly when, as you said, the crowd were screaming for him to go wide. If they'd got the ball a bit wider, a bit quicker. Unfortunately, Ross Nixon's pass out to Grant Sutty went behind him, so he just had to truck up again, which allowed Watsonians to get their defensive line in structure again. It's tough work for Selkirk. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It looks like they're going to have to work really hard for any points to get today. But if they keep working, they stay in the game, and Watsonians will start to wonder what they've got to do to try and win the game.
They could do something before half time. Selkirk 0, Watsonians 12 with about 9 minutes to go in this first half. Watsonians very well drilled in defence so far this afternoon. That's a Selkirk scrum just inside the Watsonians half, 10 metres in from the stand side. Hugo Alderson to feed. Scrum's taking out just a wee while to come together this afternoon, but in she goes, and that's decent scrum from Selkirk. So Nixon at first receiver, that looked borderline forward rather. It was very flat to Andrew Grant Sutty as Westlake comes round the corner. Still, the Watsonians players have got over there, and have they stolen that? The capital men, yes they have, and there's a chance to go here. And out it goes to Coetzer on that far side, and that's a scrag tackle, and it needed to be by Blake Cullen. But they're into the Selkirk half with that possession that's been coughed up by the suitors, and it's Mackenzie again. It goes to McLean. McLean goes deep, and that's been hacked through unorthodoxly so by Harry Clark. So Callum Anderson takes a bit more of an orthodox view of things, and he sent it fully 50 metres down the field from inside his own 10 metre line. Watsonians are saying that he was outside the 22, rather it was from his own 22.
He was inside the 22, definitely.
Yeah, he was inside the 22, but did he take it back in, Iain?
No, I think, well, for me, he just stood there waiting for the ball to come to him and collected it inside the 22.
Yeah, and for me, he sent it 22 to 22. Yes, they've worked that out, the team of officials, and back towards the 22 goes Ewan Maguire, the AR on this near side. So from one 22 to another, it'll be a Watsonians line out. Pritchard to throw in. Selkirk 0, Watsonians 12. 33 minutes gone here on Rugby Radio. Pritchard takes the instruction from Craig Davidson. Another Super 6 experience in the Watsonians ranks. All of the front row, in fact all of the front 5, bar 18-year-old Finn Ronnie, who's come in from Strathallan School this season. And this looks like it's going to be another box kick by Adam McKenzie. And again, it's another decent one, and it's going to be contestable. And under it got Walls, and it's came into the arms of Watsonians forward, but it's been knocked on ever so slightly. And it's been picked up on eventually by Kieran Stark. Iain noticed this. Yep. You noticed that from up here, Iain?
Yep, it was knocked on into Callum Anderson, and Callum Anderson knocked it forward as well. Watsonians a little bit lucky to get away with that just now. The back of that ruck before Mackenzie was taking the box kick, he dummied, which you're not allowed to do for the back of a ruck, so it should potentially have been a penalty against him. It wasn't much of a dummy, he just moved himself, moved his shoulders, but it's still a dummy at the end of the day, which you're not allowed to do.
Those are the intricacies, folks, that you get from Iain Hurd. That's why he's on the big bucks here at Rugby Radio, as we await this scrum to be fed by Alderson. Right on halfway, Selkirk desperate for something before they head down the tunnel into the sheds. 12 points to 0 adrift against what so far this afternoon's been a well drilled Myerside outfit, and that scrums went all the way round, and the referee blows for a penalty in favour of the home team. I can't think Watsonians have coughed up many penalties so far in this first 30 odd minutes.
Don't think so, no.
This one's been good.
Certainly Luke Petty's got the better of his opposite number in that one. Well done to him.
So Anderson, that's a good looking kick by Anderson right down towards the corner. That is an absolute perler by the fullback. It's going to be a 5 metre line out to the suitors, and as I mentioned, they dearly love something here before half time, something to show for their efforts. This will be as close as they've been territorially to the intended destination, that is the Watsonians try line. So Fraser Eason standing in today for Corey Tate. The test of his darts, and he's gone to the tail, and that's a beautiful throw, and it's a beautiful off the top to Taylor Wilson, and Taylor Wilson goes one way or another, and it's Nixon. It's been knocked on by the experienced centre. Brilliant line out right off the top. Rampaging was Wilson. They tried to offload it. Wasn't the easiest one for Nixon to take, and unfortunately he's fumbled it. So Watsonians with possession, nigh on their own line as they look to exit here, and back it goes to Coetzer, and Coetzer clears his lines up towards the 22. Decent exit in the end for Watsonians, but Iain, the chance goes a begging.
Yeah, just a little bit impatient there from Taylor Wilson. All he needed to do was just take that ball, go to deck. Watsonians are well and truly in the back foot. They had all 7 forwards in front of the ball, so Selkirk were running onto it. You'd have got quick ball there, no problem at all. And then you've got to really fancy that, if you can get Callum Anderson or Nixon or Grant City hitting up hard, he's going in underneath the post. Even if he doesn't, it's going to suck in another couple of Watsonians defenders, and they're going to finish up with the likes of Blake Cullen or potentially Anderson out wide.
So Selkirk line out this time on the 22, and again they've gone to the tail, and again it's been panned back, and it's a good slick service that by Alderson. And Westlake now in the midfield, he hits it hard, and their tackling was McLean. And they come back towards this near side. Now it's Anderson, and Anderson dummied the first man, carries hard. Van Niekerk's in though, and Van Niekerk's trying to steal the ball, but the referee tells him to vacate the premises. And this time it's Wilson again, still outside the 22. Selkirk, Alderson to Eason on the near side. Eason's got Lachlan. Ferguson beats the first man. Ferguson over the gain line, so starting to make headway here. Selkirk, Alderson was played it there, but legally so the pass wasn't the cleanest, but they've still managed to keep the ball. And once again it's Wilson. He's grown into this match as the clock ticks towards halfway, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to go, and Malt, the latest to dummy and head towards the line. Again, Watsonians players over that, but the referee happy with it. It comes back again on the Selkirk side, and another carry by Wilson. He's hit hard there, and has he been injured there? That doesn't look too clever. Oh no, he gets back to his feet. Callum Anderson with a little goosey tries to go around the outside of his man. Trying to flood the breakdown here, Watsonians. Selkirk continue to maintain possession, and there's a penalty coming. Yes, not rolling away is the call. That looks like Craig Davidson who got caught in there, and the penalty is going to be awarded to Selkirk. And Iain, you'd imagine Anderson will put this into the corner once again.
Yeah, definitely. Again, Taylor Wilson involved in a lot of that there just now. That time, the previous time he tried to offload the ball and he possibly shouldn't have done. This time he probably should have passed because there was numbers outside him. But again, it's great to see that he's getting involved, getting as much of a workload as he possibly can. It looks like Luke Petty's taking a breather for just now, and he's going to be replaced by, is it Cammy Foster or Stephen Murray, I think it is.
Yeah, I seen Stephen Murray stripped off, the hugely experienced Stephen Murray, who's joined this season from Highland, having played over 300 games for the Inverness club, and it has been kicked into the corner once again by Anderson, so it'll be Eason will go at the tail again. Fraser Eason, this time he goes to the safety of the middle. They're going to try a move here, and it's Monroe. Job came back on the near side. Job, smart slick line out from Selkirk, and they're going to try and rumble it. They're a metre or two short here, and Wilson's there again. Wilson, round the corner he comes. This is where Corey Tate would have been absolutely ideal for this kind of situation, but they're going to have to get there without him. Bruce Riddle only scored 1 try last season. Riddle after a few the season before. And again, Fisher got a few last season. He's up towards the line. Is he over the line? Yes, the referee has awarded the try. Selkirk back in this just before half time, and Iain, that's just what the doctor ordered.
Definitely. I mean, that again, they did exactly what we said they didn't do the previous 2 times. They took their time, there was patience. They got pick and drive, and eventually Fisher, big dynamic second row forward, he actually hit the shoulder, hit the outside shoulder of the Watsonians player, which gave them a bit of momentum to go over rather than hitting at the centre of the body. So really good by Selkirk. You know, the sort of three main areas of possession they've had in this first half have all come from big boots down the field by Callum Anderson, and it just goes to show that put the ball in behind Watsonians, they're maybe not quite as good as they are when they've got the ball. So yeah, big couple of points. Big try there for Selkirk. If Alderson can convert this, I think they'd be pretty happy at 12-7 down.
15 metres in on the 22, Alderson struck it well and through it goes. The flags are up, so all of a sudden the Sooters are right back in this ball game. Edinbrackies have scored again at Rayburn Place against Gala. Robbie Kent with the unconverted try. That takes that one to Edinbrackies 12, Gala 7. And we have the same score line here. Selkirk 7, Watsonians 12. It'll be Coates to kick things off. Life left in this first half, and that's taken by Anderson, and he's running hard. Anderson winning possession. We all know about the boot, but he's a very accomplished runner, an all-round footballer as well, and that's a tip pass back into Bruce Riddle there, who's hit hard. But Selkirk, and that's Nixon, stolen another 2 or 3 metres. Can he play by the veteran? But there's a Watsonians player in over there. Has that been stolen? And it's yes, to the point that the referee's awarded a penalty for hanging on. Not what Selkirk needed just after clawing their way back into this, and straight away referee Kieran Stark points towards the post. This is just inside the Watsonians 10 metre line, and it looks like it's Coates coming forward for this one, Iain.
Yeah, it's the first time that
oh no, it's McLean.
Watsonians have actually had a penalty from for Jacqueline the ball. Just unfortunate, Russ Nixon just saw what he thought was a bit of a gap there, went himself. Probably would have been better just to set that up, give it to Anderson, boot it down the other end of the pitch and potentially get themselves in at 12-7. Now McLean's got the opportunity to make it a 15-7 half-time lead for them.
Andy McLean, as a crowd falls silent. Struck it okay. McLean, is it going to drift to the right of the uprights? Yes, it's quite a long way to the right, in all honesty. So Callum Anderson is going to try and clear this, and again he's given that a fair old welly right to halfway. What a kick by Callum Anderson. As the half-time whistle goes, they're back in this. The Sooters tried just before half-time for Jack Fisher to counter the 2 Watsonians tries, first by the skipper Quaggavan Niekirk, second by fellow South African Dom Coetzer. And Iain, what do you make of that?
It's been entertaining. It hasn't been exactly what I was expecting. I thought it would be much more open running rugby, as it seemed to be, must have been last season. But I think if you're coming off the pitch at the moment, of the 2 coaches, I think Sesh Henderson's got to be the happier of the 2, because there was a long part of that first half there where really Selkirk were second best in everything. They were second best in collision, they were second best at the set pieces, and second best as far as attacking play is concerned. But as we said, 3 or 4 decent long kicks from Callum Anderson, and just a little bit of power play to get that try. He's got them to 12-7, and I think they've got to look at it and say that they can play better in the second half. And Watsonians, again, if I'm in Sesh Henderson's position, I'm saying, well, that's what they've brought to us. They've only got 2 tries against us, and they've really not done an awful lot else. So we just need to step up, keep a hold of the ball. And if we keep a hold of the ball, then we're going to be dangerous second half. And if it means we're going to have to go 2 or 3 pushover tries, then so be it.
So half time here at Philiphaugh, I agree with Iain. Sesh Henderson likely to be the happier of the 2 coaches. It's Selkirk 7, Watsonians 12.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
With over 30 years' experience in print and embroidery, BE Uniforms are one of Scotland's leading rugby teamwear specialists. We currently supply many great clubs across Scotland and the north of England, offering brands such as Adidas, Macron, Canterbury and BE Sport. We have a specialist teamwear team who collectively have over 60 years' experience in the trade, delivering quality teamwear and finding solutions to the challenges out there. If your club is looking for a new supplier and would like to know more, get all the details at beuniforms.co.uk, proud sponsors of Rugby Radio and Borders Rugby TV. BE Uniforms, your identity is our purpose.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Yes, Philiphaugh here, half-time. It's 7-12 at the moment. Watsonians got their noses in front, a couple of early tries, and Selkirk coming back strongly in the second half. We can go to Poynter Park now because Sam Matthews is there.
Half-time here at Poynter Park, and it has been a proper border derby. Score at the half is Kelso 0, Hawick 10. Not much on the way of scores, but it's been all action and it's been ferocious at every collision. Start off with Kelso kicking off, getting themselves down deep into Hawick territory. They claimed 2 penalties, and both times they either went and kicked for touch or they took a scrum right in front of the posts. With a man like Dwayne Patterson in your backfield, that really stated their mindset from the beginning. They wanted points, but they did not get them. Hawick grew into the game, and what was a real turning point in the tide for them was when small scrum half Zach Lewis met a charging Archie Barber down this near touchline to the main stand, and for want of a better word, he absolutely melted him into touch. It was a beautiful tackle, perfectly legal, but geez, you could feel it from the back of the stands. Then came the Hawick points. Ever-present Andrew Mitchell got the first try of the afternoon, the only one so far, after some slick play. Put consistent danger down in the 22, good backline play. Ford and Charlie Welsh interchanging in the 10 spot throughout the time. Mitchell stepped in off his right foot and went close over the whitewash. After that, just before the half-time whistle, they got that safety net. Kirk Ford kicked points right over, probably influenced by the time left on the clock, but a great decision in my mind nonetheless. I must admit, when I looked at the teams in the warm-up, I thought Kelso were going to have a field day today, but credit to the men from Mansfield Park. The men that went into the changing room and the men that came out were 2 totally different teams. They have been nigh on perfect. They've taken everything they've been given and they've responded in kind. As I said, a very ferocious battle, probably more to come in the second half. At Poynter Park it remains Kelso 0, Hawick 10.
More half-times coming up very shortly. We'll also go to Rayburn Place where Enbrackies, I think, are leading Gala by 12 points to 7 at the break. We'll hear from Hugh Brown very, very shortly. But the National League's very much kicked off today, and for one of the National 1 clubs it's a very special season because Gala are celebrating their 150th anniversary and will obviously be looking at having a good campaign in that division. Vice President is Doug Taylor, and I caught up with him earlier in the week.
The excitement's building down here. The guys have worked really hard. Ross Ford has come in with strength conditioning. I think that's made a huge difference. We're raring to go.
Interesting as well, you mentioned strength and conditioning. That seems to be the big buzz phrase at the moment, isn't it?
It is, and I think Gala, we don't at the moment tend to breed muckle lumps, as we say. So I think it's really important that the guys that we've got are as strong as we can make them. They're as fit and agile as we can make them, and recovery is also important. So the stuff that Ross has been putting them through, some of it very innovative. I've never seen this before. You can tell the difference. We had a run out in Newcastle against Newcastle Northern, and you could see that we're fitter at this stage of the season than we've been for a while.
How are you going to be celebrating the anniversary?
Well, the anniversary, we've got a game against the Penguins, which will be an exciting prospect for our young team. We've got other marquee games. We're having a special 150th anniversary dinner. And towards the end of the season, I think we're having something like a Ceilidh.
You're currently in National 1, of course, so along with Jed Forrest, so you've got a nice derby to look forward to there. But looking towards the season, a few new people in. You mentioned Ross Ford as well.
We're looking forward to the new season. As you'll probably be aware, our under-18s had a fantastic season last year. Quite a crop of them have moved up into the first 15. And although they're very young, they're very exciting young players. So it's going to be a hard year because National 1's at a hard level to jump from under-18 rugby. But some of them are raring to go and really relishing the prospects. Some of them had a little taste at the end of last season in a game against Selkirk. But again, having had a full pre-season with the senior players, they're raring to go. It's always difficult in National 1 because we've got teams that come down from the Prem who have been playing at a higher level. You've got the unknown coming up from National 2, and I'm sure that they'll be a prospect. Boroughmuir have invested a lot this summer on their backroom staff. So it's always a very difficult league to guess. I mean, I think the Prem, when you look at top clubs in the Prem, you can almost write the table at the moment, but National 1, it's never like that. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, how do you approach that then? I mean, as a coaching setup in particular, when Iain and the boys looking at sort of 3 teams that you never played last year because they were in the Premiership, as you say, a complete unknown quantity.
Yeah, I think I could speak for the coaches when they say that it doesn't really matter about the opposition, it matters about us. One of the disadvantages we have at this magnificent stadium behind us is that every team that walks through that door goes, wow. So for every team that comes down here, it's like a cup final walking through these gates, looking at the ground that we have. So that lifts a team, but we're used to that. And the coaches would say, it doesn't matter what the opposition bring, it's what we do on the park that counts.
And it can be, of course, intimidating. It's the wow factor as well. And, it take some teams 10, 15 minutes to settle at Netherdale, and that's when you pounce.
I totally agree. And towards the end of the game, if it's close, the crowd kick in. That's a huge help for the Gala lads as well.
Of course, away from home, it's a different kettle of fish, really. Last season, you had a couple of hidings away from home. Here at Netherdale, almost invincible.
We were a team of two halves, definitely. We did not travel well this year. The coaches have looked at that. Our preparation is going to be slightly different this year. You work hard, win games at home, train hard during the week, and last year a couple of times we never got off the bus. That just can't happen. We have to be more professional in our outlook. The director of rugby has come in to solidify the work that Iain did last year. So he's got different views on how we get over that hurdle. And having people like Ross Ford about, he's not going to allow young lads to have the same attitude perhaps as we did last year in a few occasions.
That's quite a coup, isn't it, getting Ross Ford here?
Absolutely wonderful. When we spoke to Ross about that, we weren't sure he would actually say, yeah, I'll do that, but we're absolutely thrilled. Came in to do strength conditioning, but even tonight he's telling guys where to put their feet in the scrum practice and everything. So yeah, it's a huge coup for us, and he's such a nice guy as well. The
I was
players
just going to
really
say,
respect him.
He is so modest. Even after he came off from playing rugby, and he didn't really want to talk about his past, his career. No. He's more concerned about the job that he's doing now.
The respect he has out there on the paddock with the guys is just wonderful, and of course he would have that respect. He's been a fantastic character and a fantastic player for Scotland for all these many, many years.
That's Doug Taylor, the Vice President, will be President next year from Gala, who are behind at the moment, 12 points to 7. Just time quickly, we can go to Rayburn Place. Hugh Brown.
I said before the game this could be a close one to call, and I think that might prove to be the case. However, in 2 minutes, a brilliant interception from skipper Jamie Looms was fed to Cammy MacDonald, who was in on the far left for the home side's first score. Looms popped over the conversion. The Maroons, though, pushed forward, but every time Gala were repulsed by the Accies' strong defence. But then finally, in 21 minutes, Gala's luck turned when Vice-Captain Ben Gill caught a wayward Accies pass inside the home side's half to run almost the length of the pitch to go in under the posts. Rory Wilson's conversion was good, so it was all squares 7-all. But Accies went back in front with 6 minutes left, with a good period of pressure ending in a try for Robbie Kent. The conversion, though, this time was wide. So at the interval, Accies have their noses in front and Gala have work to do in the second period. Half-time here at Rayburn Place, Edinburgh Accies 12, Gala 7.
And the teams are out here at Philiphaugh, so let's return to Robin Purdie and Iain Hurd.
Teams are indeed out. Thank you, Stuart. It's going to be Selkirk to kick off, attacking away from the town towards the cricket club, where there is a late season game happening today. Callum Anderson in his exceptionally bright yellow boots. Will they still be looking like that, Iain, come December? It will remain to be seen, but it'll be Anderson to get us back underway. And I think you noticed the substitute on.
Yeah, Finn Mallon's on by looks at it, number 20 for the Selkirk. I'm not sure who's gone off, but I'm assuming it's one of the wingers. Difficult to work out so far.
So he's gone reasonably long with that. Anderson up towards the 22, and they've got the ball back. Selkirk, they drove over that, and it's now Bruce Riddle on the rampage. Riddle halfway between the try line now and the 22, so they're making good headway here, and it comes out to Nixon, to Andrew Grant. He was fairly prominent with his carries in the first half, and that's a good shot on him by Loman McPherson, not right across the upper stomach. Stevie Murray, the recruit from Inverness, to the try scorer Jack Fisher. Good footwork by the big second row before he's hauled to the deck. Alderson again to Malt with the distribution to Anderson. Anderson taken down again, still deep in the 22 here, and that's a carry from Andrew McComb. Malt thought about a grubber, and that's a long flat pass to the substitute Mallon. Mallon came back in against Sander Wells, and Wells dragged him down. And now it's Eason, the hooker. So good start, a good promising start to the second half here for the Suitors. Westlake, the latest to take it in. Watsonians player was over. That was a good clear out in the end by Selkirk. Now it's Nixon. Nixon's tackle by Allison. Alderson again to Westlake. Good tackle on Westlake there. That looked like McPherson again. Or was it Harry Clark, his inside centre partner? Alderson to Taylor Wilson. He finished the first half strongly. The open side flanker. Iain, again, that's tipped out nicely, and Callum Anderson here goes to Mallon. Now Mallon getting in the corner. Not been on the pitch 2 minutes. Finn Mallon in at the corner he goes. And Iain, talk about the ideal time to score just before half-time, just after half-time. It's a great try by the youngster.
Absolutely superb finish by young Finn Mallon there. You know, he's pretty much one-on-one with his winger. He's gone outside him, and he's just basically taken off from about 2 metres away and dived in the corner. Superb work by him there. Again, some just good possessional play by Selkirk there. They've kept hold of the ball really well. Some big drives up. Grant Sutty's really coming to the fore. As you say, just before half time and just after half time, he's putting himself about a bit. Nixon again just taking that ball up and holding the ball when he's to Westlake as well, and Taylor Wilson, and they've just flooded that right hand side there to give themselves an opportunity to score. Not dissimilar to the Watsonians try off the scrum where they went at the last minute, and it sounds very much like Alderson's just kicked the conversion to put Selkirk into the lead.
Yeah, the very definition of a touchline conversion from Alderson, sailed between the sticks. So all of a sudden Selkirk are in the lead here, and they've got 2 tries to their name. 14 points to 12. Jack Fisher with the first, Finn Mallon with the second. Couple of conversions by Alderson. So we have a game on just into the second half, and that kick-off has been taken by Selkirk, and they're going to try and clear the lines here. They're just outside the 22. And Alderson it will be to put up the box kick, and that's a better effort by Alderson. He had a skew with one in the first half, and that's going to be taken in there by Coates, it looks like, but he's been driven back by Lachlan Ferguson. But Watsonians now in possession, this exciting young Watsonians backline, and that's a long pass by Harry Clark there out to the big winger on this near side, Xander Walls. He's a big, tall, solid individual. Good shot in there by Stephen Murray in the midfield, and that's another carry from Andrew McInnes, another player who put himself about in the first half, the big Watsonian second row, and that's McLean now. Andy McLean, the recent recruit, the standoff, he's off and running, and he's got a man on the right hand side there and going to be in. What a wonderfully worked try that is for Watsonians, created by Andy McLean. The little standoff with a brilliant running game. And I think that's Dan Kelly on that far side, Iain.
I think so, yeah. It looked like he had just gone out to the winger. It's just very simple rugby there, as they've just taken the ball at pace in the backs, and McLean's just seen a gap and just had too much pace for the 2 men outside him. And then it's just a simple 2-on-1. He's drawn the full back and popped it up to young Kelly, who sprinted in there. He showed quite a bit of pace. There was no danger he was being stopped. So yeah, I think Selkirk will be a little bit disappointed in that, because actually they did really well. The box kick wasn't quite contestable, but as soon as it came down on Coutser, he got hammered the back, but Watsonians did a really good job of recycling, and then 2-3 phases later they're scoring.
There's a conversion attempt from the assister, that's gone through as well, so it's another conversion for Andy McLean. I can confirm it was the 17-year-old Dan Kelly. 2 games for him this season, straight out of school, 2 tries. So Selkirk 14, Watsonians 19, and what a cracking start to the second half it's been, as we await this kick-off from Callum Anderson. Again, they did well to win the first kick-off back. Selkirk, and again he's gone pretty deep with that, and it's taken in by Coates, and he shanked that a wee bit, so that's a net territorial gain for the Suitors. That'll give them a line out just outside the Watsonians 22. Selkirk 14, Watsonians 19. Selkirk forwards having a bit of a chat here prior to ambling up to the line out. Fraser Iain, stand-in hooker today for Corey Wett. He's went well from the touchline. There's a couple to the tail that were taken right off the top. He's gone more straightforward to the front. That time it was Taylor Wilson got up. It didn't come back that cleanly, but Selkirk have it nonetheless, so Westlake has to truck it, and truck it he does, and he's done pretty well there, the big number 8, and that's a strong collision. That's a big meeting there between Jack Fisher and the hooker Matt Pritchard, but Selkirk have the ball back, and Going to try and run. Oh, it's been knocked on there by Nixon. Wasn't the most sympathetic of passes by Malt, and that Selkirk huff and puff comes to nothing.
Yeah, it looks like there was possibly another move out there. I think that ball was probably supposed to go out the back behind Ross Nixon, but the good thing with Malt there is he actually read that the Watsonians player had read that move, so he just tried to pop it up to Nixon. Nixon wasn't expecting it, and unfortunately knocked it on. Again, just that little bit of inaccuracy there that makes a big difference. You just need to keep a hold of the ball, as we said, and stop Watsonians' backs from getting a hold of it. Watsonians look like they've made a change as well. At 21, Murray Scott looks like he's come on at scrum half in place of Adam McKenzie.
He has indeed. Decent replacement, Murray Scott, been around the place a while. Another with Super Rugby experience as we await the feeding of this scrum. Centre field, Watsonians scrum it will be on their own 10 metre line. The predicted rain's not joined us yet, or just maybe starts to fall now. There's somebody with a brolly on the far side right enough as Scott sends it. Oh, and there's a dummy there, and a lovely offload from one centre to another, and Loman McPherson's off and running here. Has he got the gas? McPherson is going to try and take Anderson on the outside. Anderson managed to scrag him, and a winger got back to him. That was Lachlan Ferguson, but they're up towards the line here, and Selkirk have stolen it. It's been knocked on by Watsonians. Good defence in the end by the home team, but that was a beautiful offload from Harry Clark, 18-year-old, to Loman McPherson. 15 tries for him last season, so he clearly knows his way to the whitewash, but Selkirk are going to have to try and exit here. Jack Fisher takes it in, and that's a counter drive on there by Watsonians. Are they still playing with an advantage? Selkirk for the knock on. It matters not, because they've been awarded a penalty, and that's going to let them off the hook. But what a wonderful offload there by young Harry Clark.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good gambling run by McPherson there. Just got his hands free and just popped that ball to him. It was a really sympathetic little pop. Unfortunately for McPherson, he didn't get the opportunity to have anybody with him, so it came to nothing. And then they did a good job of recycling ball, Watsonians, and then lost it in the contact. Slightly concerning at the moment that Callum Anderson is down injured for Selkirk, whether that's come from the collision that he had with McPherson, trying to stop him from getting to the try line.
Yeah, that would be one of the last things that Selkirk would want here. Their talismanic fullback, he's been impressive once again this afternoon, that left boot of his, but he's got the direct, balanced running style as well that we've seen on more than one occasion. And yeah, Maurice Clementson, this Aussie that's come in from West Harbour Pirates in the Shoot Shield, looks like he's going to enter the fray, which would suggest to me, Iain, that Anderson's race is run.
Yeah, it looks like Anderson's getting his arm in a sort of the jersey sling. He seems to be struggling with it quite a bit, but hopefully he's not too bad and he can come off, and might just be a bit of a stinger, give him 10 minutes and get back on again. But be interesting to see how Clementson does. Shoot Shield's a good standard in Australia, but obviously he's in one training session, so understanding what's going on, and also to fill the boots of Anderson, who's been probably the standout player on show today.
Yeah, he's not formed and that's going to miss touch. Has been taken. Yeah, the penalty's missed touch. It's taken in by Coetzer. So Watsonians now with a chance to go inside the Selkirk half, and that's a tip on from Finn Ronnie. Scott at the base. I think that's Allison in the midfield. Dragged the ground eventually. Scott again, thought about a snipe, goes to Ronnie. Now it's with Allison. Oh, it's a loose pass from Allison when he had Xander Walls with half a yard of space down this stand side. So flung straight into touch, however, so just outside the Selkirk 22, they will have a line out. And I mentioned a couple of times last season, Iain, that Selkirk, as brilliantly as they did last season, to me they always just look like they're 2 or 3 injuries away from maybe starting to struggle. And we've got Corey Tate on the touchline, albeit hopefully he'll be back soon, but they don't want to lose Callum Anderson when you're talking about star performers.
Yeah, I completely agree there, Robin, and I think the same has to be said 2 or 3 clubs in the Borders as well, is that they are going to struggle if they lose 2 or 3 players, especially players like Callum Anderson. At the end of the day, you don't want to lose anybody, but if you're losing somebody who's, I say, your star performer today, your Corey Tate, who's got that little bit X factor for Premiership rugby, yeah, it's a bit of a worry, but we'll see how this guy Clementson goes on. As I said, Shoot Shield's a good standard. Let's just gives him an opportunity to show what he's made of, and then gives him the opportunity to potentially fight for a place for next week and the weeks after. And as I said, hopefully what's wrong with Callum is it might just be a bit of a stinger, and he'll get back onto the pitch. But seems to be another delay at the moment. Fraser Eason this time, I think it is, that's injured.
Fraser Eason, yeah, he's went pretty well this afternoon. Eason, by all accounts, he was impressive last week.
Yeah, I mean, James Bett last week scored 2 tries.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 2 tries for at Maloney Park, which potentially are coming off of driven lineouts, and that's saying quite a lot. But for Fraser Eason to come in as potentially the third choice, he's done really well. He's hit his jumper. He's done reasonably well on the loose. So they can't, no complaints about his contribution today at all.
And Rockies have extended their lead at Rayburn Place. It's Accies 19, Gala 7 through a Struan Whittaker try and Jamie Loomb's conversion. Alderson, Selkirk won the line, and Alderson's stuck that high into the Selkirk sky, and coming forward for it is the winger, and he's taken it well, Xander Walls, before he's clattered by Eason and Monroe Job. Allison, Coates sees a bit of space over on that far side. Is that going to drift towards the touchline? Maltz over there, yes it does. Smart play by the little fullback. Now they'll have a backline reshuffle here, Iain, Selkirk. So what's happened here? I think by the looks of things is the new man Clementson gone to 13 potentially, or he's in that channel anyway. As Watsonians now make a change. Andrew Stevens on.
It looks like Malt's gone to fullback, which is quite an interesting one, because I think Clementson, Henderson said that he was a 10 or a 15, I think he said. So it potentially looking as if he's going to be playing 10. But you say another change for Watsonians. They're not bringing on 19-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids of youth club standard. They're bringing on experienced players, or again the youth that are maybe that little bit more physically developed.
Yeah, they're already grown men, some of these lads, and they're in possession now, Watsonians, and it's with Coates to Loman McPherson. McPherson's created the space again, and another loose pass lurking with intent on this near wing once again was Xander Walls. And it didn't go to hand, it did float, it did fly straight into touch once again. He'd done the hard work, Loman McPherson. Often found on the wing himself, playing at 13 this afternoon. And that's a couple of chances they've gotten a bagging for the big winger Walls, and it'll be a Selkirk line-out once again from a nigh-on identical position from when the last pass was flung into touch with gay abandon. So Eason, look for the likes of Fisher in the... Oh, and that's gone over the top. First skew whiff one of the afternoon for Eason. So Watsonians now with the ball in the Selkirk 22. Scott, and again good distribution by Harry Clark and Coates, and over on that far side again is Dan Kelly, and Dan Kelly, second try of the afternoon, a smart finish for the young man. 3 tries from his first 2 games in senior rugby. And Iain, there's a wee bit of daylight here.
Yeah, that little bit of pace there that was put on the ball by Watsonians, that we were just praising Fraser Eason for his line out work so far, and unfortunately that one was overthrown. Gave Pritchard a great opportunity just to get the old knees up and career into midfield, and then after that it's always going to be really difficult, because unlike the previous attack where it was reasonably laboured, and the ball was always behind the gain line, that time they were always running onto a quick ball, and it gave Coates the opportunity to just attack his man, and it then puts the Selkirk winger on the far side there. That it just makes it very difficult. Lachlan Ferguson, for him, does he stay out on his winger, does he come in, because the centre was never quite getting there, and it just gave a simple 2-on-1 to Coates, and they put Kelly in again. So conversion there by Andy McLean. So that's taken us up to Selkirk 14 and Watsonians 26. Another couple of substitutions coming up from Selkirk. So Grant Paxton coming on to make his debut for Selkirk in the National Leagues, having come from Jed Forest. And they're also bringing on number 21 Brodie Allen, who certainly showed up quite well in the sevens, a big strong unit. Be interested to see how he plays.
So, as Iain mentioned, the conversion was good. It was a good strike by Andy McLean. That's his third conversion of the afternoon. Dan Kelly, who's a late inclusion today to the starting lineup. Wasn't announced in the original team, but he's made the most of his opportunity, and he'll be fancying another crack at it in week 3 for sure. Be hard to leave him out after his showing today. Couple of tries, an impressive all-round game. So it's been hoofed downfield by Selkirk, by Watsonians rather, and that's a big high hanging Gary Owen by Malt, taken in by Coetzer, who's returned it. Malt's tried to trap that with his foot, and it's been allowed to run under his foot. That's more Scottish 3rd Division than Champions League, that, but he managed to get it eventually. And Watsonians now again have sent it down into Selkirk territory. And here's the new man, Clementson. Clementson has kicked that downfield again. A wee bit of kick tennis going on at the moment. Eventually one of them goes to the touchline. It's a decent clearance by Watsonians. Alderson thought about the quick one near the halfway line. Bob Nevins the AR on this near side, so it'll be a Selkirk line out. 12 points adrift, Selkirk 14, Watsonians 26, and of course Iain, Watsonians with a try bonus in the bag.
Yeah, that's important for them. As we said, getting bonus points away from home, they potentially could get the 5 points, and also if they can keep things within check for Selkirk, it could give them an extra 5 points against them. Interesting kick tennis just now. Watsonians were winning the battle until Clementson got that ball and put in a really clever kick, and it sort of helped Selkirk get back to close to the halfway line.
And the lineouts came in. It's been pinched by Watsonians, and not much going right for Selkirk at the moment. Lamberton, he hits it up just on their own 10 metre line here, Watsonians, but comfortable in possession as it stands. Murray Scott at the base, shaping like he's going to stick this into the sky, and into the sky she goes, and that's going to be potentially contestable for the big winger as well, and always mistimed there by Finn Mallon, and it's been taken in by Xander Walls. Xander Walls runs in from 10-15 metres, not had the best of service from his teammates. The big winger in recent times, a couple of loose passes when he could have scampered down the touchline, but scamper over the try line he did on that occasion, and that was just a wee bit of a blunder, Iain, as the ball dropped high out the sky. Yeah,
Mallon's trying to come in there and get up in the air. He's just got up too quickly.
Yeah, just mistimed it.
And then he's sort of flailing about in the air waiting for that ball to come down, and then by the grace of the bounce of the ball, it's bounced right up into Walls' hand, and Walls has just strolled in there despite the best efforts of the Selkirk defender. It's starting to get a little bit worrying now, because Watsonians are starting to get a lot of possession. They're starting to score with ease, and Selkirk really have to sort of settle this down a little bit. Otherwise, we could finish up on the end of quite a considerable score, which is if nothing else, it's going to be really bad for Selkirk confidence at a home game. And they're now, it's 30 points. Although the conversion was missed, so it just stays at 31-14.
Yeah, 31-14 to Watsonians can bring you up to date. A couple other scores as well. It's still GHA 6, Melrose 7. Glasgow Hawks have gone in front at Anniesland against Curry, 15 points to 12. Still 10-0 in Hoyk's favour at Poinder against Kelso. I believe there's been an injury there to Kirk Ford that is requiring some time to be spent on it. Dropping down a division, Edinburgh Accies have got a bonus point now at home to Gala, 24 points to 7. They lead. Mar lead Jed at Riverside, Jed 14, Mar 19, and it's currently Musselburgh 13, Biggar 10. So back here at Philiphaugh, Dom Coetzer, who's become ever more prominent in this game, has sent a kick deep down into the Watsonians 22, and Kieran Westlake's back there, and he gives it to Malt now, who's filling in at fullback by the looks of things. Started the game with 10 on his back, and he's missed touch. Again, it's Coetzer, and Coetzer's beat the first man. Oh, he's been scragged there eventually by Westlake. Scott, there's been no drop off at scrum half since he came on. Selkirk, good line speed there, but Andy McLean's seen them fly up, and he's jinked his way another 2 or 3 metres into the Selkirk half, and that's hacked through there by, I think that was that Finn Ronnie, the second row, with the ball skills, and Malt eventually clears it to touch. And Iain, do you feel, with we've been it's a three-score game from a Selkirk perspective now. Have they got enough? Have you seen enough to believe that they can turn this one around?
I don't think so, Robin. Everything they've done, they've worked really hard for, and they've worked hard for the scores that they got. I just see that Watsonians could potentially score tries here, there and everywhere, just with the pace of their backs. That last passage of play just now, there was a ruck in midfield, and fortunate for Selkirk, Watsonians decided to come towards the stand rather than going towards the road, because I think if they'd gone towards the road, they certainly had numbers up. But Selkirk are defending well, but they've just got to keep in the game, and if they can nick a score, you never know. But I don't really see anything that I've seen so far that would suggest that there's a great way that they're going to score 3 or 4 tries and get out of this.
Watsonians in possession at the moment, and it's in Selkirk territory as well, and they're up towards the 22. Another strong carry by a Watsonians player there. I think that's Boyd Cooper who's came on, another youngster, and that's a long floated pass to Andrew Stephen. Stephen doesn't get pinged for holding on, and here they come again, Watsonians. Oh, it's a beautiful dummy by a man that's been impressive. I say a kid that's been impressive, Harry Clark, this afternoon, and he's been fumbled just shy of the line, but another good intervention by the youngster. And Boyd Cooper has come on. I think Harry Stewart's on now as well, another youngster who's come in from Biggar. So they all fancy a piece of the action here, these new look Watsonians youngsters. But it's going to be a Selkirk scrum. I think Bruce Riddle's come back on. He'll probably, is he going to slot in at 2 here? No, he's back on.
Looks like Grant Paxton's gone into hooker.
Yeah.
Grant can certainly scrum at hooker, no problem at all. And Riddle's staying on the Riddle and Murray are staying as the 2 props.
That's right. So on their own 5 metre line, just 5 metres in from the stand touch line here at Philiphaugh. It's going to be a Selkirk scrum. Hugo Alderson, it will be to feed it. And Watsonians trying to get a bit of a shunt on, but solid enough from Selkirk. And it goes to Andrew Grant Sutty. He's run hard all afternoon for the Sooters. Man that missed much of last season through injury. Beg your pardon, it was the season before. Andrew Grant Sutty was almost ever present last season, but Alderson this time kicks the touch, makes a decent fist of it as well, manages to clear his lines. The ball bounces just in front of our vantage point here, so this time it will be Watsonians line out just outside the Selkirk 22. There's been a few lineouts for this position. Boyd Cooper, another, spoken about it all afternoon. Iain, he's 18 years of age, and he's a well put together young man, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it just looks like strength and conditioning, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So let's see what he's got with the darts. Nice and tidy to the middle, and they've taken it in here. Watsonians just outside the 22. They're going to try and trundle this one forward. Jack Fisher's managed to get through. He's trying to stay on the right side of the referee. He's got a big mitt in there. He's trying to disrupt the ball coming back to the scrum half, Murray Scott, and he's tripped over his own bootlaces there. That was Andy McLean trying to come round the corner, and it's been fumbled just as it looked like they might be going to work up a bit of a head of steam there, and a wee bit of a let off for Selkirk. That they looked like they were in a pretty good place there, Watsonians.
Yeah, they had numbers coming on this blind side. It was a very, again, last minute change of direction. Interesting to see them sort of maul that ball right in the middle of the field. I think they possibly could have kept on going. I mean, quite interesting to see if they tried to do that, because although the likes of Fisher and I think the other, possibly Westlake was the other one, although they were hanging on and getting in the way, they weren't actually creating any drive. So, if Watsonians had at least 2 men up in that maul, they could have kept going potentially.
So, from the resulting fumble by Andy McLean, who's otherwise been pretty good this afternoon, you have to say, I would imagine he'll be in the running for any man of the match gongs or champagne that may be handed out. Alderson at the back of the scrum, again goes to Andrew Grant Sutty, and again he runs headlong into these maroon and white jerseys. And another that's just done that is Stephen Murray. Busy enough since he came on, Murray, as the wind just picks up here. You can hear it over microphones. Alderson again sends that towards the stand. The wind's got hold of that actually, and it's going to result in a brilliant clearance kick by Alderson. Just gives Selkirk that little bit of breathing space, but I think it's fairly telling, Iain, the impact that the Watsonians bench has had as well.
Yeah, since the Watsonians bench have come off, there's been no major change in Watsonians play. The guys that have come on have just slotted in, and there's another couple of players coming on. I'd suggest one of them, certainly not one that's a 17 or 18 year old just out of school, and that'll be Donald Voas. He looks a little bit more of the veteran stage than anything else.
Yeah, Vos, another with super rugby experience coming off the bench, the ex-bigger man. Boyd Cooper, and again it's another beautiful Watsonians line out. So Scott to McLean into the midfield, they go, they truck it up, another powerful carry in there. That looks like Boyd Cooper. McLean again, McLean's trying to show the party pieces here with the footwork, and he's taking another 10 metres way over the gain line. So Scott, Fisher in with a tackle there. He's manfully trying to hold on as the Watsonians forwards try and march towards the 22. Scott, but it's not gone to ground there, so decent defence there by Fisher. He stuck to the task. Looks like Clementson was in there as well. But again, you just feel that Watsonians they've just got that wee bit more about them.
There's an element of pace about the attack now. It's those first 3 or 4 carries there just now and contacts. It's given Murray Scott a great quick ball. He's getting there and it's up and away. And you just feel that Selkirk are absolutely hanging on at the moment, doing a brilliant job of doing that, I have to say. But you just feel that the dam could burst and there could be guys going through gaps. But they are doing a really good job, and none more so than Jack Fisher there, who basically got in and just held up the Watsonians player himself. Clementson came in to give him a hand, but they got into them all, and as soon as that ball hits the deck, they wrap round it, and thank you very much. We'll take that turnover. They need that. They need a little bit of sort of take the sting out of the game, and try and get a bit of ball, as we keep saying, and just edge their way down the pitch. As it looks like that'll be the last of the Watsonian substitutes as Chris Bell comes on in place of, is it Kelly the winger?
I think it's maybe Harry Clark, or it could well be Kelly actually. We'll see if we can see the number on his back, but no, he heads straight into the dugout. So no, I think you're right, Iain, because I can see Harry Clark out there. So brilliant shift by the youngster Dan Kelly, 2 tries for the 17-year-old to add to his 1 scored v Selkirk last week. The scrum eventually comes together. I can tell you that Eden Brackies have scored another couple of tries. Eden Brackies now 38, Gala 7, Richard Thompson with 1, ex-Melrose man. Callum Cruikshank with another, couple of Looms conversions, and Melrose 10, GHA 6 is another incoming score from the Premiership. So Selkirk with this centre field scrum just outside their own 22. Alderson again barking the orders. Scrum is a wee bit of a mess, but it's come back to Alderson, and it's been kicked downfield by Clementson, this new recruit. And it's Bell, recently joined the fray from the bench. Malt is under his kick, and it's a loose pass by Malt, and he's going to have to scurry back as Alderson, and Alderson's been caught now in his own 22. Loose play by Selkirk. Are they going to get this back? Yeah, they've done pretty well there to win this back, and eventually a penalty goes the way of the home team. So Watsonians applying the pressure and then letting Selkirk off the hook.
I don't think there's going to be a huge amount that's going to disappoint Davy Wilson and Finn Gillis today, but there have been 2 or 3 occasions where Watsonians have been, Selkirk have been struggling their 22, trying to get ball clear, and they've given away penalties that probably weren't necessary. You've given Malt the opportunity there to kick clear from a penalty rather than being under pressure through the back of a ruck or maul. So yeah, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed in that, if anything.
So another Selkirk line out, Bruce Riddle, the latest to throw in. At Riverside it's now Jed 14, Mar 33, Musselburgh 20, Bigger 13, and Watsonians have pinched that line out, so they now have possession, but it's been lost forward, and Selkirk rather going to have another scrum. It's, as you'd expect, Iain, there's about 10 minutes to go. Watsonians a fairly commanding lead. It's just become a wee bit scrappy.
Yeah, it has a little bit in the last sort of couple of minutes. Just again, it's just little knock-ons, it's just little inaccuracies, but you know, it's all from going forward. So it's not something that's to be negative about. It's just, you know, just hold on to the ball, let the rest of your teammates do the work. It's maybe just, again, still early season, second game of the season, so you know, these guys are still to gel. They've only been together for a couple of months at the very most, and you know, only had sort of 3 or 4 games together. I'm no doubt, although they did well in their pre-season games, Watsonians, they will be still trying to gel and get used to each other playing.
Yeah, certainly some new men in the ranks. So Selkirk now, Brodie Allen to Andrew Grant City. Grant City definitely been one of the better performers in Navy here this afternoon. Clementson lurking over on that far side. Many's a Watsonian defender and they've spilt the ball. Selkirk, so here come Watsonians again. And that's one of the substitutes, that's Boyd Cooper. Scott to McLean again, McLean back into Coatsar. One diminutive, quick, slick figure to another. Auxiliary scrum half there was Boyd Cooper. And again, another strong carry, this time by the captain, Van Niekerk. He was the first try scorer here this afternoon. Vos with the hands. And that's flung out there to another of the try scorers, Xander Walls, he's dragged down, scragged by the ankles by Andrew Grant City. Was that another knock on? Yes, it was. So decent enough defence there by Selkirk, as has been the case in the last 5 to 10 minutes. But as we come into the last 10 minutes of this game, they've huffed and they've puffed in this second half. They had a good start to the second half, Iain, Selkirk, but Watsonians have just not allowed them to play in the main.
I mean, fits and starts from both teams. I think, you know, we just mentioned just now about the possibility of, you know, Watsonians just not gelling. But to be fair to Selkirk, you know, they're still putting in big hits. They're still pushing them, shoving themselves about in rucks and mauls and creating the errors from Watsonians. The unfortunate thing is the errors they're creating are just little knock-ons, and then they're under a little bit of pressure from the scrum. But you know, there's absolutely nothing that you can take away from the Selkirk players in terms of defence. They're still battling on with 10 minutes to go, and you know, for them, I think you've got to look at it now and say, could they get a bonus point by getting a couple of tries?
Well, that's certainly something still to aim for as they feed that scrum. Pretty deep inside their own half though, so they'll need to find something from somewhere pretty quick, a break or an offload, and that's flung out there on the far side to the winger, Lachlan Ferguson. It was fairly telegraphed. First phase stuff though, Alderson. The Monroe job. Palms it on to the onrushing Cammy Forster. Oh, it's been lost again though. It's been picked up by Watsonians on the far side and back inside to Niekerk. Niekerk to Scott. Scott going to be in at the corner. Yes, as easy as you like. Murray Scott, ex-Super Rugby performer, and that's the difference in Selkirk. They come up with the error, Watsonians all over it, and they've got the pace to finish it off.
Yeah, I think Selkirk, as we said, they realise they're going to have to do something now to try and get something out of the game, and you know, it was an attempt, threw back in, and it was just unfortunate that the Selkirk player Clementson that was receiving it, he had the Watsonians player just about under his ribs at that point, and he had absolutely no chance. Thump back at the tackle, ball gets dropped, and then it's just 2 or 3 simple moves and passes, and it's not difficult, but you still have to finish it off, and they did a good job. Murray Scott going in the corner to leave McLean with another conversion. Difficult one again, but although the wrong side for right-footed kicker, the wind is going that way, so hopefully help him a little bit.
Just about to begin the run-up. Andy McLean's played really well this afternoon. The new recruit heads in the general direction, but just to the right of the uprights, but they won't be too despondent about that. Down Myerside Way, it's currently Selkirk 14, Watsonians 36. I'm hearing from Kelso that they are back in the game. Ewan Thompson scored the try. It's been converted by Dwayne Patterson. That means it's Kelso 7, Hoyk 10. Also hearing from that game that Kirk Ford potentially has a very nasty either ankle or Achilles injury potentially that's required a bit of treatment, so we wish Kirk well. Great player for Hoyk over the last few years. That would be a blow to lose him, but lose him it looks like they will for a period of time, and that's a long kick being sent down the paddock by Dom Coatsar with around 6 or 7 minutes remaining here as the wind again starts to pick up a bit more. That's a good pluck out there by Monroe Job. So Selkirk now with their first venture into Watsonians territory for what seems like the first time in a while. Jack Fisher still dancing, trying to create space for others. He's hit hard by Boyd Cooper in the end, and it's taken Selkirk just back inside their own half. Bruce Riddle, that's a decent carry by Riddle, back over halfway. Fumble in there, but the referee and officiating team are happy enough, and it's Monroe Job once again. Alderson to Murray. Murray, the latest to deploy the hitch kick, the big prop. Alderson. Job looked interested, but it's gone back to Clementson. Good defence in the midfield on Petty. Good line speed by Watsonians late in the game. So Selkirk still trying to go from deep, and again good line speed to hit Andrew Grant Sutty hard. Bounced off the challenge, however, Sutton's managed to set it up. So Alderson to Fisher. Fisher's worked tirelessly for the Suitors' cause here this afternoon. 3 or 4 minutes remaining by my watch. Bruce Riddle, another who's put himself about as best he can, and that's a charge there by Monroe Job. Been busy in the last few minutes, Job. Alderson, and through there came Van Niekerk. Now, what's the referee going to say about this? Going to have a chat with somebody. Kieran Stark, do you see much in there, Iain?
I see an awful lot. I think maybe Alderson got a little bit frustrated at the Watsonians player on the deck. Again, it's always a difficult one. Kieran Stark's playing advantage. I think he's had a really good game actually, but he's playing advantage there. It's really never come to anything, and he finishes up in a position where there's a Watsonians player lying on the deck, and Alderson's maybe had a little tickle at him, and it causes a bit of a problem. Maybe he could have brought it back a little bit quicker than that, but you can understand what he's trying to do by just trying to keep the game flowing as much as possible, but always a difficult one. As Stephen Murray comes off with what looks like a bit of a thigh injury, Grant Paxton gone back on again as Luke Petty's decided that he fancies a rumble for the last 10-15 minutes.
And off for Watsonians has come Harry Clark, the 18-year-old inside centre. For me, he's been one of the star performers here this afternoon in attack and defence. In a brilliant game, the youngster. Selkirk line out, not a thing of beauty, but it's been picked up nonetheless by, I think that was Paxton. So once again Selkirk are just about into Watsonians territory, but there's a loose pass in there and they've gone back into their own half. That's a strong carry from Brodie Allen. He's done pretty well since he came on. Alderson, he's hassled by his opposite number. So he gives it to Cammy Foster, or Finlay Smith rather. Selkirk, plenty of possession now, but not doing all that much with it in and around the halfway line. That's a loose pass by Monroe Job, gratefully gathered in by Dom Coates, the fullback who'd made a menace of himself up in the Selkirk line. It's now been picked up by Vos. It had gone to ground but didn't go forward, so Vos trundles it 3 or 4 metres, but the referee now awards a penalty to Selkirk for holding on. I agree with you, and I think he's had a great game. The referee, Kieran Stark, can't think that he's got much wrong. There's been no real needle to speak of. There's been no handbags. A
couple of silly ones. I was talking about the early should have been a 22 rather than the goal line dropout, and there was a dummy, but other than that I think he's had a really good game. He's kept things moving, he's had good communication with players, there's been no issues whatsoever, and if that's the sort of standard of officiating that we're going to get this season, I think it'll certainly help the players. Obviously guys like Kieran, who was close to or in the vicinity of the Super 6, they've no longer got that now, so hopefully we'll get guys like that, and sort of Mike Adamson's, Holly Davidson when she comes back from the Women's World Cup, although obviously they'll be involved quite a bit in the Pro 12, the URC at some point, but sadly Selkirk lost another line out there.
Yeah, I've lost another line out, so Watsonians going to have another bite at the cherry here, albeit they're inside their own half. Bell feeds it to McPherson. McPherson beat the first man, that was Andrew Grant Sutty. Grant Sutty done enough to slow up his big opposite number, however. Scott's been impressive since he came on, replacement scrum half, as has this man, Harry Stewart, recent signing from Biggar. Real impact from the bench, a lot of these players. There's another one, Donald Vos, and Donald Vos has broken through the challenge and he's up over the halfway, rampaging, propping the wilds of Philiphaugh here, and another pass to the man that's came back on, and it's a hat-trick try it looks, for Dan Kelly. He'd come back on for Harry Clark. 17 years of age, Premiership hat-trick. Can't ask for much more than that.
Absolutely superb, and again, it's been good finishing. They're not been the most difficult to finish, but you've got to be there. Your ball's got to get to you, and that one was that little bit more difficult. He's had to dive in, but again, it's just that little bit of extra pace. The last 5-10 minutes or so, every time Selkirk have had the ball in attack, it's been laboured. You know, they've had slow ball at the ruck. The backs and the big ball carrying forwards have been standing 3-4 metres back and standing still, and then every time they get the ball, Watsonians are rushing up on them. Whereas that phase of play there, it's just a bit of pace. You've got Vos putting some pace on the ball, and then it's just so much easier when your standoff and your centres are running onto the ball, and it creates pace, and pace is something that's very difficult to deal with. It puts the defenders on the back foot, and slick hands there's put Kelly in for his third try. It looks like he's coming off again, or Kutzer's coming off.
And that conversion attempt from the far side again is drifted wide, so I make that Selkirk 14, Watsonians 41 in the very dying embers of this game. And I can tell you that from Poinder Park, Kelso have gone into the lead. Who else? Bruce McNeil with a try converted by Dwayne Patterson, so I make that Kelso 14, Hoyk 10. Hoyk leading for much of that game. Edinburgh Accies 43, Gala 7, another try for Robbie Kent. But here at Philiphaugh, it's been a commanding performance, you have to say, by Watsonians. They will be looking to do as much as they can this season to loosen the stranglehold that many think the Ayr will hold over the league this season. Here goes Malt. It was Monroe Job rather, and that's an attempted grubber by Andrew Grant Sutty, but yeah, safe to say he made a mess of that, and penalty's been awarded against the suitors. He missed the ball as he tried to grab it at Andrew Grant Sutty. So Watsonians with a penalty inside their own half. And have you seen enough from Watsonians today, Iain, to think that they can mount at the very least a best of the rest challenge?
I think so. They've got a bit of power up front. I think they'll be a bit light for taking on the likes of Ayr, but I think everybody will. I think their backs are really exciting. There's a few that have impressed me. McLean's looked good at standoff. The centres have looked really good as well, as you mentioned. Harry Clark, I think I've been not more impressed, but I've been equally impressed by Loman McPherson. I think he's been really good. Walls is a big unit on the wing, and for somebody like Dan Kelly, who, been unfair to say, was dropped last week, but he wasn't in the starting 22 after playing last week. He's come in and got 3 tries.
Certainly taking his opportunity, the young man. And they go again, Watsonians, the centre field, 10 metres outside the 22, that being the Selkirk 22. McLean again to Bell, who's come on, another who's looked competent, and again he's off and running here. Kelly, and is he going to be in for a 4th try? That was you mentioned, Iain, that there'd been reasonably straightforward finish. Well, that was anything but. That's a wonderful try by the youngster.
Yeah, really great score by Dan Kelly there. I think we've already realised that he's got a bit of pace, but he's been running them in from 20 metres out and just using his pace to do that. That time he's used power as well. A little bit of a weak tackle by the Selkirk defender, but probably on the back foot, not expecting him to run at him. But yeah, very impressive. And if that's a guy that's not getting into their 15 or their 22 this week, then I'd be interested to see how good the guy that came in for him was.
I'm thinking Lomo, to be honest.
A Watsonians version of Lomu.
As we await this conversion attempt from Andy McLean, again in the general direction. This one sails through the uprights, and the referee Kieran Stark brings proceedings to a close. So they've won this one convincingly, Watsonians, in the end. Iain, Selkirk now a couple of injuries, just maybe with a wee bit to think about.
Yeah, we're very early in the season. I still think they've got the core of a good team. They've got guys to come back, but it's the worry for me there was just the lack of any sort of killer instinct or incision there. There was very little. Watsonians were probably the only team who actually put pace on ball and did an awful lot in attack. As we said at half time, the Selkirk points really came from sort of pick and drive and drives off the back of lineouts, and a couple of one little mistake by Watsonians defender. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought it would be a lot closer. I thought Selkirk's home advantage would help, but one thing I would say is that in terms of crowd, it's a little bit disappointing. I thought there'd be a bit more noise, but then I suppose if they're not given that noise to make it worthwhile. But a few good performances in the Selkirk team. Jack Fisher showed up well. The back row of Westlake, Job and Taylor Wilson, again, they're going to cause people problems all season. Good quality players. Alderson, I think, is probably one of the quality scrum halves in the division. Outside that, nothing really yet, but obviously Malt looks like he's a decent player, but he's got a bit of learning to do with his new team. And Callum Anderson's he is a class act at fullback, but unfortunately with him going off injured, it's not quite so good.
Yeah, that certainly did not help the Suitors' cause. So a couple of tries for Selkirk. Jack Fisher with one, Finn Mallon with a great finish for the other. But it's Watsonians who emerge victorious. Tries from Dom Kotzer, Xander Walls, Kwagawan Neekirk, he got the first. Murray Scott came on and scored one, and 4 for 17-year-old Dan Kelly. Remember the name, folks. So it's finished here at Philiphaugh. Selkirk 14 at Watsonians 48.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders Mortgage Hub. This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
And we'll be getting some reaction from that match that we've just seen, Selkirk against Watsonians. A big win for Watsonians this afternoon. So that's coming up. We can go to Raeburn Place. So Hugh Brown, it's all over. Embrackies against Gala.
Well, what a difference 40 minutes makes in rugby. It was 12-7 to Accies at half-time, but the former Premiership side ran in 5 tries in the second half to demolish the Maroons. It was just 5 minutes after the break when they got their first score in the second period. A scrum on the Gala line was cleared, but only as far as Robbie Kent, who powered forward, and eventually Struan Whittaker fell on the ball to score try 3. And the bonus point was in the bag on 50 minutes when Accies camped in the Maroons line until flanker George Davis was awarded the try. It was one-way traffic by this point as Accies pushed over for the 5th try by former Melrose player Callum Cruikshank with the final touch. 6th score, another scrappy one, but they all count. This time second row Richard Thompson was the man to strike for the home team. And it was a brace of tries for Robbie Kent with 4 minutes left in the game, who was my man of the match. So Gala will have to lick their wounds and prepare for an even tougher task at Netherdale next Saturday against National 1 favourites Stirling County. But here at Raeburn Place, it's finished Edinburgh Accies 43, Gala 7.
So a big win for Edinburgh Accies. Remember, they were relegated last year along with Mar and Musselburgh. So the Premiership results are all in now. GHA 13, Melrose 10 at Braidholme. So GHA, remember, newly promoted, and they've won their first 2 games, a victory at Hawick last weekend, and now at home to Melrose. So they're flying at the moment. They didn't get the try bonus today, obviously, but they're on 9 points in the Premiership, which is a fantastic start for them. Glasgow Hawks 15, Curry 19. Again, a second win for Curry there, but certainly not a comfortable afternoon for them. Glasgow Hawks scoring 15 points and Curry winning by 4 in that one. It's all over at Mansfield Park. We'll get Sam Matthews' report very shortly, but Kelso have got up to win. Remember, they were trailing 10-0. It's ended Kelso 14, Hawick 10, and down here Selkirk 14, Watsonians 48. So don't forget Heriots against Ayr coming up at 4:45 today. That's on Scottish Rugby Television. That's on the YouTube channel from Golden Acre, 4:45 then. So it's ended here, as I say, Selkirk 14, Watsonians 48. We can get some reaction now as Robin is joined, I think, by Jack Fisher.
I am indeed, Stuart. Jack Fisher, try scorer today for Selkirk, but Jack, all in a tough day at the office. What went wrong out there today?
Yeah, I think set piece struggled a wee bit. Got a few missing boys. Fraser, obviously, I think that was his first start for the ones. Big shift from him, but a lot of moving parts. We had to make a lot of sort of subs. So yeah, a lacked a bit of cohesion there, but it's not an excuse. But difficult. We don't have a platform to play off of. You're giving the back scraps, and it's always going to be an uphill task.
Were you taken aback a wee bit by the quality and the physicality that the kind of new Watsonians youngsters brought to the party?
Yeah, no, obviously, they've lost a few notable people, so we knew it'd be a different side we come against. A lot of youthful boys that have got a lot of running in the legs, a lot quicker than me. So but you know what, it was close in the first half. I think just maybe we tired a bit. We didn't have a lot of the ball, and as you say, you've got a lot of young boys running at you. At some point something's got to give.
And what was said in the huddle out there at the end?
Just we know what's gone wrong. We've given away silly penalties, one-up missed tackles. It's a long season. We're not playing bad. There's just moments. There is a lot of good in there. Obviously from Currie last week and this week we're going to build on it. Obviously a tough start to the season, but we've got 16 games to go, and we'll give it a good shot.
And a chance to right some wrongs. Short journey down the A7 next week to Mansfield to play Hawick. They lost today, so plenty to play for next week for both teams.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hopefully have a few boys back in the fold there, so we'll dust ourselves down and get ready to go again.
Well, Jack, thanks for fronting up. We wish you well for next week. Cheers.
Cheers, thank you.
There are Jack Fisher talking to Robin Purdie. We'll get the Watsonians' perspective very, very shortly. No doubt they'll be absolutely delighted with that big win here at Philiphaugh. We mentioned that Kelso got up to win against Hawick today. We can join Sam Matthews.
Full time at Poynter Park, and the home side crowd go ballistic. 10-0 down at half time. They scored 2 tries unanswered. Both teams nil each other in their respective halves. Hawick going 10 unanswered, Kelso going 14 unanswered in the second. A game that was really showing the war of attrition. Last week I spoke to you about how I could barely have time to list off all the tries. This week, barely time to list off all the injuries. Hawick lose Eli Hamilton. They also lose Sean Fairbairn. But most importantly, Kirk Ford gets stretchered off with what they suspect is a torn Achilles. He will be a big miss after losing Kyle Brunton to injury last week. It will be interesting to see who wears the 10 jersey for Hawick then next week when the team heads out. But back to today's game. Second half told a real story. A missed pen by Zach Lewis proved to be vital when they were 10-0 up. That could have really put a dagger in the chest. He missed that. That gave Kelso the belief, and the bench came on and they were inspiring. Ewan Thompson and his brother James Thompson, both from Berwick, one in the forwards, one in the backs, both really started to pull strings and give that team some belief. Ewan Thompson got the first try of the afternoon for Kelso. Dwayne Patterson with a conversion. In between that, they lost Hamish Tweedy and Will Jones both to injury, but then the ever-present and immortal Bruce McNeil goes over to get the home side back in front. That brought them to 12-10, and then once again Dwayne Patterson with his trusty boot gets them back out of that distance, meaning Hawick needed to score a try. That resulted in them having to go for it in the final 10 minutes. They couldn't quite get over the whitewash. Kelso come away with an all-important victory here at Poynter Park. Final score, Kelso 14, Hawick 10.
Thank you to Sam. He'll be trying to get some reaction as well. Before we go, we've been joined by the 4-try hero here from Watsonians, youngster Dan Kelly, who's with Robin.
Yeah, yes indeed, Stuart. 17 years of age, no less. Dan, congratulations first of all. 4 tries to add, I believe, 1 last week. You must be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, it's great. It's coming into Selkirk. It's always a tough place to play. We spoke all week about it's a real challenge coming down to the borders and winning, but yeah, it's good to get a few scores in the sheet.
And it looked like as a team you were in a really good place right from the get-go. Is there a different buzz about the place this season? A lot of young lads?
Yeah, I mean, the youngsters help. I mean, me being one of them, of course, like we bring a lot of energy to the team, I'd say. I mean, there is an element of inexperience, but we sort of worked around that in training and just sort of keeping clarity high and just sort of taking each week by itself and just trying to build upon wins and, yeah, just see where the season goes, but good buzz around the team.
And you dominated much of the first half. You let them in just before half-time. Did that change the complexion of the team talk at half-time a wee bit?
I mean, we spoke about half-time. Obviously, it was quite tight going in, but we just thought, we were getting some good success out wide, and we knew that was the area we had to target in the second half. I think we came out a bit flat-footed. We didn't really hold our chest high and just gave away a soft score. But I mean, no discredit to the Selkirk team. They were great today. We just, executed well and finished off some nice tries. But yeah, the after half-time buzz wasn't great, but we just sort of worked on it and got it back eventually.
And 2 games in, 2 bonus point wins, one of which a tough away assignment here today. Glasgow Hawks at home. next week, I guess you'll head into that in the finest of fettle.
Yeah, no, we're just buzzing. As I said, just work week by week. That's the chat in the change room. Just don't take things too to the heart. Like winning a game here doesn't mean you're going to win the next one. And we're just going into it with a chest held high and just analyse the team all week and just go into it, just play our rugby.
Well, you played your rugby today, that is for sure, young man. 4 tries, very well done. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
A name to watch for in the future, no doubt about that as well. We can go back to Raeburn Place. Let's rejoin Hugh Brown.
Jamie, it looked like a close game after the first half, 12-7 to Accies, and then you just came out storming in the second half.
Yeah, I think the scoreboard was close at half time, but we must have had 6 or 7 entries into the 22 and didn't capitalise on many of them. So, at half time it was just talking about when we get down there, be patient. And I think the pleasing thing is that in the second half we did that. And we knew in the second half we'd have the wind, and that bottom right corner is obviously something that we know playing at home is a weapon for us with that wind. So it was difficult for us to get out of our own half in the first half with that, but second half we're pretty confident when we turned around we could play a lot more down there.
When you were relegated from the Premiership, it's tough for any club to simply come back and get back up again. Do you think that Accies are capable of doing that this season?
To be honest, I'm not even thinking about that. Yes, obviously that is the long-term goal, but this is a really tough league to get out of, and as far as I'm aware, you've got to basically win every week. So that's a huge challenge for us as a group. And promotion or whatever's a long way away. We're at day one, and we just take it game by game, I think.
How much of a bonus is it that the other Jamie Soul, has come out of retirement? Because I interviewed him in his last day of the season last year, said he was retiring, and he's put the boots back on this season.
Yeah, look, Solly's a huge figure around the wider club, never mind just the playing group. So it's excellent to have him back. He's obviously taken on a defence coach role here. So yeah, when he's available and he's able to play, is a huge plus for us.
You've got a good team. I think you've got a good squad. You can hopefully do big things this season. But as you say, you've got to put together a good performance every week, both home and away, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not good enough to just win your homes here. Win your games at home. So yeah, that's obviously a massive challenge. And again, it's been a long time since we've been in this league, and a lot of us don't really know what the other clubs are like in this league other than the ones that came down with us. So it is a bit of the unknown, but when you go on the road, we've got to front up physically like we did today, and that's obviously a challenge next week at Glasgow Accies.
Yes, and Stirling County, the favourites from National 1 to go up this season.
Are they?
You're not far behind.
Yeah, no, they've obviously got some decent recruitment in there, and yeah, good luck to them.
Jamie, thanks for speaking to me. All the best for this season.
Okay, cheers, thank you.
Always good to hear from Jamie Looms, Edinburgh Academicals. I'll be absolutely delighted with that win there. Just to go over those Premiership scores again: GHA 13, Melrose 10, Glasgow Hawks 15, Curry 19, Kelso 14, Hawick 10, and Selkirk 14, Watsonians 48. National 1, 43 points to 7 win for Edinburgh Accies against Gala. Jed Forest 21, Mar 40, and Musselburgh 20, Biggar 13. They are all results that are in. Newton Stewart winning against Stumel 18 points to 6 in National 2, and Peebles 14, GHK 27 is a final result there. All the other results will be on our website as soon as they come in. But just briefly back to Robin Purdie again. Watsonians certainly made their statement of intent this afternoon.
Couldn't agree more, Stuart. Hugely impressed I was by Watsonians this afternoon. They come in to this game as a team that got to the playoff final last season, but they've lost a lot of personnel. They've replaced them with young blood, and some of that young blood today, it really stood up. Obviously Kelly, we spoke to him, four tries for him, but Harry Clark was absolutely superb as well, and even some of the young lads that came off the bench, Boyd Cooper, Harry Stewart, they look in a really good place to me at the moment, and you don't see this too often at games, Stuart. There's subs that came on for maybe 20 or 20 minutes. You have to see it more in football. They've got them out doing a bit extra. I've been doing this now for a few years and I've not seen that, so they're taking it serious, Watsonians.
And of course, what we saw as well, 3 or 4 tries came from Selkirk drop balls, and Watsonians were always there to pounce.
Yeah, they were hungry, they were desperate. They were good in defence. They just looked like they wanted it today. Selkirk will be disappointed. Not quite at it. Corey Tate's a big miss. We keep banging on about it. But Callum Anderson, he was their shining light. He went off, I think, towards the tail end of the first half as well. So, or maybe just in the second half. So yeah, I've got a wee bit to think. Early days, of course, Stuart, but Selkirk just with a wee bit to think about. And they head into a game against Hawick next week, where both teams will just be wanting to chalk up that W and get up and running properly for the season.
Well, we'll have the league tables and all full results, obviously, on the Rugby Radio website very, very shortly indeed. But the closing headlines in the Premiership, there were wins for GHA, Currie, Kelso, Watsonians, and of course Herits and Ayr have just kicked off about 10 minutes ago. In National 1, Edinburgh Accies and Mar and Mossabra all victorious, and we're still waiting on the results of Gordonians v Glasgow Accies and Stirling against Boroughmuir. My thanks to the team today: Robin Purdie, Iain Hurd, Sam Matthews, Hugh Brown, Vicky Shiragib and Colin Black. Borders Rugby TV highlights of Selkirk v Watsonians will be online later tonight at our website at bordersrugby.net and on ITV on Monday at 6:15 on ITV News. Don't forget our new Rugby Roundup programme. That's coming up at 7 o'clock. But for now, from me and the team, a very good night.